absolute cinema is the only way to describe what week one was. We didn't have to wait for the chaos to occur because it started in the first quarter of the first game on the first night of the season. Wow. Standards were kept. Teams choked that we expected to choke. They maybe just choked a little earlier than we thought. Turns out Peyton Manning has been reincarnated, ladies and gentlemen. Andrew Luck has returned to football. They've just taken up a completely different monarchy and name title. There's so much for us to talk about here on this edition of your favorite NFL podcast for the last, four seasons now? The Sports Agents of Chaos podcast are here to bring you the fun, football, and chaos that was week one of this 2025 NFL season. Of course, introing this affair, as always, myself, one-third of the troublesome triumvirate that we are, the Iceman Jurg. And joining me are my compatriots of chaos at the bottom of the screen, a man who braved the weird weather we've been having over the last couple of days. I forget if it rained at any point during the weekend, maybe not during the actual game itself. But a man who has braved the conditions to enjoy his first game in a while, live and in living color, the Games Master, Justin. Justin, how we doing?
Good. Survived, barely. Survived.
Yeah, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. And hope you had a good time, and we will get a direct report about that as part of our week one analysis as we go across the league, to say the very least. And of course, a man who definitely enjoyed week one in certain instances, and on other instances, he was probably just looking at the TV in disdain and disgust, which is how he looks at most sports, honestly, nowadays. It is the Podfather himself. Rick, how we doing?
Lots of disdain. Lots of disdain and disgust. Yeah, with a lot of it going on. How am I in last place again? I don't quite understand what happened here. I don't know, but we're back and we're ready for week two. So I guess let's get after it and see what happens.
Indeed, to say the very least, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to waste any time here. We are going to have plenty to talk about on this one. We're going to be debuting a new segment here very shortly. Yes, a brainchild of this conglomeration of chaos here that we have. A new segment that we'll be debuting here on a weekly basis that we'll get into the fine details of once we get to it. And then after that, we're going to streamline our way into discussing the rest of week one as it unfolded. Of course, as you guys know, we have the hashtag SAOC Pick Challenge towards the end of the episode. And of course, we always end it on a beautiful ranked podium, a podium that will be so much more straightforward and somehow be less controversial than the one that there was this past weekend in Italy. But before we get to all that, we always have to have a little bit of fun beforehand. Podfather, throwing it to you. Podfather's going to be carrying the start of the show very heavily on this week. Rick, give it to us. We got Dad Joke of the Week.
As you can see, I also moved myself down a little bit on the board because I'm going for that too. Gentlemen, we're all travelers here. We all, I think enjoy traveling to either far off distant lands or Orlando in some cases, or the Meadowlands potentially, whatever it is. But recently, I was feeling a bit of a spate, so I kind of come up with an idea. I went to my wife and I said to her, okay, so where should we go on our next trip? What are you thinking about? And she said, well, I'm not quite sure. How are we going to decide? So I pulled out a world map and I said, okay, let's look at this world map. Here, I'll give you a dart. Throw it at the world map. Anywhere you throw it, well, that's where we'll go for our next trip. So, gentlemen, it looks like we're spending the next 3 weeks behind our refrigerator, apparently.
Perfect aim, eh?
I mean, it works out. She'll tell you she is the worst hand-eye coordination. She's a great swimmer, though, but hand-eye coordination like baseball, softball, no, that's my thing. I'll tell you a quick funny story, too, because, why not? We were with her friends years ago at her house, getting ready to go to, ironically enough, a Giants game. Fun fact number 2 is that we left one of our friends on the train at the Secaucus train station going to the game, which is hilarious. But that's not here or there. Before the game, we were like, okay, let's gear up, let's have snacks, whatever. So my wife has these Rice Krispie treat bars, very good. And her best friend's like, toss me one. My wife takes it in her hand, underhands it, goes straight up in the air, off the ceiling and hits her best friend in the shoulder. Like instead of going right to her, it was like indirectly that way. So aim's not really what we aim for, I suppose. That's a punk rock joke for any of the fans out there.
Well. I mean, I gotta say, Justin, at least it's pretty cost effective to back the fridge, eh?
Yeah.
So.
Cheaper than Orlando.
or Baltimore.
Little dusty, but it works.
Only very close to the price range of Ohio, funny enough. They actually give you money to willingly take vacation in Ohio, some say.
I find it funny that like there's some countries that are like, we'll pay you to move here and and work here. Like I think the most recent one I saw was like, oh, New Zealand wants you to come teach down there, and if you do, you'll get a $10,000 grant. And I'm like, that's nice, but that's not going to help me afford a house in New Zealand, right? I don't know what the exchange rate is for U.S. dollars to New Zealand Kiwi emu or whatever it is. I don't know. So, but, could you imagine me doing the show from New Zealand every day? God.
Well, I mean that would be a nightmare in terms of the time differential.
Oh, it would be. It would be. Although, Jerg, you and I did a show with one of your friends, JB, and he was in South Korea, so that was kind of interesting.
That is true. We've done a couple hockey programs.
And that, by the way, to everyone who thinks that Justin is the saltiest sailor on the podcast, I think that show nearly got us demonetized because JB was swearing up a storm that show.
that is true. JB would rival Justin in terms of tips in the swear jar. Honestly,
that's true.
It'd be a battle of loose change between the two of them.
I agree with that.
It's a good one. Shout out to our guy JB. Definitely going to do something hockey wise. Last season was a nightmare for all three of us at various points, but hopefully this season we'll be able to get some hockey talk here for a little Sports Agents of Chaos hockey exclusive or two throughout this season, to say the least. So we'll get to that at a later date. But Podfather, knee slapper once again with the dad joke, and then the funny story to follow up. Like I said, you're going to be carrying the start of the show for a reason because it's going to continue to run through you. As, ladies and gentlemen, we debut the newest segment in Sports Agents of Chaos podcast history, All Gas, No Brakes. Now, was not thinking of F1 when this name was coming up with because honestly, this name didn't even come from myself. It came from the Podfather. This is the brainchild between he and Justin actually taking my original idea and making it less pyro adjacent in terms of it. Because I had something along the lines of like, where there's smoke, there's fire. And the two of them shot that down, to say the very least. But honestly, this one works out quite well.
But Jerg, I'll give you this. There, how's that? Is that better for you?
But as our video and audio people have some fun here in the background, this is going to be a fun one to say the very least, ladies and gentlemen. So All Gas, No Brakes is essentially going to be our like quick fire, hot takey segment to an extent for this season. On a weekly basis, we're going to rotate this around actually throughout the course. It's not going to be all three of us. One of us will be selected each week, and we're going to come up with anywhere from 3 to 5 topics. It could be anything that maybe we've seen from popular NFL Twitter talk, which I think probably could be the crux for like 1 or 2 of these on a weekly basis. Anything we've come up with, maybe something we heard in some post-game analysis, on the Monday, overreaction Monday is a big thing, right? And then the reacting that night to Tuesday morning of the Monday Night Football game. We could grab these ideas from anywhere, whether it be the recesses of our own mind, which is a dangerous place to go to when it comes to my regard, or if we get it from somewhere out there in Twitter land, to say the very least. So the Podfather is the most honorable selected one this week. He has 4 selected takes that he has that it's going to be, are we going to either pump the brakes? Or are we going to go full throttle, all gas, run it, ladies and gentlemen? So pumping the brakes, obviously, is we're telling you guys, don't overreact to this. There's got to give it time. There's not much here, blah. Or if we're going full throttle, it's like full steam ahead. We got something here, to say the very least. So that's the breakdown of the segment. It's going to be, I'm very excited for this debut, and I think it's only right that the Podfather debuts us. So Rick, take it away with your introduction to the first topic that you got.
All right, gentlemen. Well, I did see this come through in one of the Twitterverses that when there's a certain quarterback out there who has been in a multitude of offensive schemes, but he's only had success in 2 offensive schemes in his career, because outside of the schemes of Sean McVay or Ben Johnson, Jared Goff, I believe the record is 0-10-1 as a starting quarterback. So, gentlemen, hit the gas or pump the brakes on this one. After week 1's dismal performance, John Morton will last only 1 season as the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions.
Justin, I'll let you take this one because you were. I mean, I wasn't necessarily piling in on them, but I know in our private group chat, I know you were coming to the defense a little bit of the Lions here. So what do you make of this one?
You know, it was a good close game. I mean, the Packers have a good defense. I know that the Lions also did some reshuffling of their offensive line, so I think it might take a time or two, maybe a little bit longer than they anticipated for it to get things going. I don't know what that is. Oh, I guess it was me. Anyways, I'm not ready to pull the plug on anything yet. I'm not hitting the brakes just yet.
You are hitting the brakes on this one, then.
Maybe I'm miswording.
Yeah. If you think the take is not worthy, you pump the brakes. If you think it's good, it's all guess.
Yeah. No, I don't. I'm not taking this take just yet.
Okay.
So he's hitting the brakes on this one.
Sure.
It's tough because honestly, I do want to have a little bit of fun with this. This one, tentatively, because here's the thing. I'm going to pump the brakes on this one for now. But here's the fun part of this game. Between the 3 of us, any of us could bring this topic back up if we want to. This could be a revolving door. Any of these topics can be brought back in the following weeks. So we could very well be sitting here in week 4, 5, or 6, and whether it be Rick, myself, or Justin, we could bring this back up. And I think if it comes back up, we get a little bit spicy with it. But I'm going to pump the brakes for now because I still think there's so much offensive talent there. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sonic and Knuckles, Thunder and Lightning, whatever the heck they want to call themselves. How about don't be, thrown in the dirt? If you're Montgomery and Gibbs, let's be a little bit better and more consistent. Shout out, I have all love for Jahmyr Gibbs. Won me a fantasy football championship last year, but you got to step up for a real NFL championship now in real life. So you got to do that for your team. But I'm willing to give this a little time. So I am saying pump the brakes now. But remember, for the first couple seasons of this podcast's existence, I was advocating for the Lions to consider moving on from Jared Goff and to look at the QB of the future, wherever they were going to get that QB from. Because remember, at one point, not this past draft, I think it was the 2 drafts ago. Was it back-to-back years? I forget. They had multiple drafts with multiple first-round picks, right? I was looking at the draft each time, what are you going to do here, Detroit? Is Jared Goff really the long-term future? And I know we're just a week in, so maybe a little bit too early. I think it's pump the brakes for now. But if we get another game or 2 like that here very soon, I think it's going to be going. I think we're going to have to start to not ease up start to push the throttle a little bit. But I will say pump the brakes for now.
All I'm saying is you could have given a little more effort than 45 offensive rushing yards in your first game when you're a Super Bowl contender legitimately. So that's why I bring it up. All right, so that's topic number 1. Now question number 2. This is going to hit Justin a little bit harder, but it's not related to his team. It's related to the team that played his team. So Aaron Rodgers' supposed renaissance came in a 22 for 30 effort with 4 touchdown passes. Now, none of them were to his main target, DK Metcalf, who led the team in receiving yards with 83, but had 4 catches. He did not, however, lead the team in receptions. That would be Jonnu Smith, who had 1 more. So, take number 2, all gas or pump the brakes. DK Metcalf will have a 1,000-yard season, but will not lead the Steelers in catches this year. Somebody else will.
I'll go first on this one. Yeah, I'm all gas, full throttle on this one. Arthur Smith is the offensive coordinator. Arthur Smith, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Tyler Algier, or Jonnu Smith. We know which way Arthur Smith is going on this one. He did it in Atlanta, and by golly, he's doing it again in Pittsburgh. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying, first off, if Jonnu Smith leads the Steelers in receptions on this season, first off, what a pull if anyone has him in fantasy, first off. And just, it wouldn't surprise me, man. Like, I think Rodgers and DK, I think they've shown early and even dating back to the preseason, they have a little bit of a connection. They have some chemistry. I think they'll rack up some good yardage, but it will not surprise me if it's going to be other guys on the Steelers that end up getting a couple more receptions at the end of the day, because it looks like, I know it was just week one and maybe things will change, but it looks like they're going to get like the backs even, especially Jalen Warren. They're going to try to play him out of the backfield a little bit, run some routes. Jonnu Smith is of course, Arthur Smith's favorite. That's his prodigal son right there, as I like to make that joke from time to time in certain instances. It's just somehow, some way not going to be DK Metcalf. No, I mean, knowing Arthur Smith, Pat Freiermuth is going to outcatch DK Metcalf in some games, knowing his history with it. But I'll say I'll go all gas on this one. DK will somehow, some way not lead the Steelers in receptions this season,
but he'll get 1,000 yards.
Oh no, yes, that I agree. He's like they're just certain guys. It's like the catches versus the yardage. There's that discrepancy, like high yards per catch. That'll probably end up being DK for Rodgers here.
Okay, Justin.
I just never really saw DK as that kind of possession receiver. I mean, there was definitely games where he had a lot of catches, but like for the most part, he was a down the field kind of receiver. And I feel like that's the chemistry Rodgers will probably have with him. I could be all gas on this too. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if he was the top guy in receptions, but it's just not a style of play that I was expecting him to have here. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was not the leader in receptions on that team.
All right. So Smith did have 5. You had Freiermuth and Gainwell each with 3. Austin and Metcalf with 4. So we're spreading the things around a little bit in Pittsburgh. And again, gentlemen, I'm just going to say this. They're 8 wins away from another winning season. Here we go again, Mike Tomlin. But on the head coach topic number 3, I've been trying to hit on a head coach firing ever since we started this podcast. It has been Matt LaFleur in the past, but obviously, that might not happen this time around. But there is a head coach who I believe is going to be the first one fired. And this is due to an abysmal season there. So all gas or no breaks, Mike McDaniel, first head coach fired in 2025.
What a fall from grace for the Miami Dolphins. It got to a point where on Twitter, I don't remember the page that it was, but someone just put a picture of Brian Flores and they said, we all owe this man an apology. Because you know what? Brian Flores may have been right about a couple things about the Dolphins, man. The specific players and all that to be determined. You know what? Honestly, I look at the landscape of the NFL right now. A lot of teams got early victories that was big for their respective coaches. Had the Bengals lost again in week 1, and then I would be pumping the brakes here because I think Zach Taylor's job would be on the line. I think if the Colts had been embarrassed, if that game had gone the other way, I think it would have been a big question for the Colts because technically new ownership, even though Jim Irsay, RIP to Jim Irsay, the late Jim Irsay, his 3 daughters have now taken over like respective parts of the ownership together. So it's like it's technically new, like a new person making the final decision, although it's staying in the family. So Shane Steichen definitely, I think we talked about it when we were discussing the Colts a few weeks ago. Like Daniel Jones was this, hoping to save the season decision that Steichen made. And by golly, he may just have. But and then you look at like some of the other teams that lost in week 1, like a lot, like some of it with new coaches, like the Bears, we'll get to them in a few, and like the Patriots, literally the first game for their respective head coaches now for their organizations. You're not going to say anything about that. The Saints, poor Kellen Moore. The Seahawks lost a close one. NFC West games always tend to be close, right? Like you can look at a bunch of teams, like, and for the Jets, like that was a respectable game that like you lose on Chris Boswell hitting a career long kick. Like you'll take that for the kind of performances the Jets had. Like the Dolphins were the definitive worst performance in week 1, like start to finish for their game. And if they have more performances like that, which honestly I don't think is out of the realm of possibilities, I'm all gas with you on this one. I think Mike McDaniel will quickly see himself out from Miami, and he'll see himself back on the sideline of a West Coast team. I'm certain, to say the least. He'll be hired by a West Coast NFL team, probably by the end of this year, or even the start of the new league year.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue against it. I mean, it's definitely early, but if there was some sort of Vegas odds on it, I'm sure that Mike McDaniels is probably the favorite at this point. I mean, what a disappointing start to the season. They were probably the only team that legitimately did not look prepared at all for their first game. I mean, at least a couple other teams that had double-digit losses or bad, let-ups had some semblance of life. Dolphins just showed nothing. There was nothing there. So look for some bargaining chips to be moved by the trade deadline, I think. And if it's not during the season, I can't imagine he's there next year if things go like this.
All I'm going to say is that when Zach Wilson has a better QBR and passer rating than your starting quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa,
He just paid all that money too.
God help us all.
I think honestly, Rick, even if you had added Chris Greer, I sometimes confuse him and his brother because his brother is the San Jose Sharks general manager, which the Sharks rebuild is going swimmingly, by the way.
Wait, they're not related to David Allen Greer, the actor?
Was swimmingly a pun?
That was a pun, yes.
Thank you.
Dad joke. Dad joke.
There you go. But yeah, Chris Greer, I'm to Rick's point for his take here. If you had added Chris Greer to this, I think I still would have given an all gas because I feel, while I think with certain cases GMs get a second bullet, or some get a third that they never deserved. I just don't see it in the cards here for Chris Greer as well because the whole point was McDaniels coming in to work with Tua, to eventually with these weapons that they got is so much is tied between the head coach decision and the roster construction that he's done, where I don't see how Chris Greer survives and if McDaniels gets axed. I think. Yeah. I don't see a scenario where both go. So I'm saying, not only do I agree with your take, you could have taken it the step further, and I still would have agreed with you, honestly. That's as of now, we're overreacting for a reason. I think a lot of people are on hot seats in Miami, to say the least, and not just because of the weather.
That's true. All right, this is the last one, and this is the one that I think started off for me. This is the spiciest one that I've got here for you. And again, these are all wills. We're not talking about coulds or shoulds or might be's or possiblies. These are wills. What a difference it makes to win your first week and then to lose your first week. Mm-hmm. Because when you win your first week, the rest of the schedule looks pretty good. But when you lose your first week, you look at that schedule and you think to yourself, oh boy, this is going to be tricky. So, gentlemen, this question goes that by week 5, by October 1st, Kansas City will be 1-3 after 4 weeks. Here's their schedule. Going into that, they have Philadelphia this week, the Giants the following Sunday night, and then in week 4 they have to play Baltimore. Now they host Baltimore, but the Ravens looked until the very end, but their offense is prolific. The Chiefs looked a little bit lackluster. So Kansas City going into October will be 1-3. All gas, pump the brakes. Justin, I think you can start this one.
You could pump the brakes on that. No chance.
Where do you think they get their win?
I could say that I think that 2-3 should be their minimum. If you told me they were 3-2, I wouldn't be surprised. If you remember last year, also what I'm saying, Justin, just to stop you, what I'm saying is that going into that game against Jacksonville, they will be 1-3 because they're 0-1 right now. They have Philadelphia, Giants, and Baltimore going into that week. I know. Okay, just making sure. Yep. Yeah, they should beat the Giants. Okay. That's at least 1-1. And realistically, I think that they beat either the Eagles or the Ravens. Not necessarily both. But they should be 2-2, probably. The Ravens still got a lot to figure out somehow in the beginning. I think Chris Broussard, that the only person that can really beat the Ravens is the Ravens. Yeah. And somehow they do it all the time. It's kind of true. It's unbelievable how that team finds ways to blow double-digit leads in the fourth quarter over the last 3 seasons. And it's clearly the reason why they can't win a Super Bowl or get to the point where they need to be, because they really are maybe the best team in the league on paper. And they could show it for about 3.5 quarters, but for some reason can't ever finish a game. So I have more faith that they'll have a 500 record than have a losing record.
Okay.
So I'm very torn here because I'm of a similar mindset to Justin, but my concern is with the other bird-themed team. The Chiefs will handle business with the Giants, no doubt, I feel. I'm actually a bit more concerned when it comes to the Eagles game in terms of like the perspective of the other team, because I feel like with the Ravens, like this is me assuming that they could be like a normal team for once. And if you have that embarrassment of a meltdown in the first game of the season, you need to go on a torrent run right now. You need to dog walk the inferior foes you face, and you need to make a statement in that Kansas City game. If you're Baltimore, honestly, the idea if you are a contender or pretender, it starts as early as week 4 for you. I mean, for some, it started with the first game. But I think to really have a good early stamp indication, it's that week 4 game. It would not surprise me if Baltimore comes out like a house on fire in that one. So I could see that one being the loss. My thing is the Eagles game, because the Eagles just look like so blah in the Dallas Cowboys game. Like they should have punished Dallas way more than it ended up being. And that game, it was never has a game been more tale of two halves than that Eagles Cowboys season opener was. All the scoring was in the first half, essentially. Like we got nothing in the second half. So like I could see Kansas City eking out that win against the Eagles, but at the same time, I could also see Philly turning it around. Like this is so tough. I look at it from Kansas City. That running game is so uninspired right now, and it's not going to be easier with the fact that Xavier Worthy is going to be injured. Travis Kelce looks slow. The Taylor Swift effect is real. Yeah, I said it. He looks slow and old. He looks like maybe he should have considered just retiring and doing podcasts for the year. Rashee Rice, Rashee Rice is suspended if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct.
So
Yep.
so he's still going to be gone for like a game or two even after this first 4 games of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Like Juju Smith-Schuster is here and there. Hollywood Brown was probably like the brightest spot on offense for you, and you know what? Fortune favors the bold here. Let's be a little bit different. I'll say all gas on this one. I think Kansas City could get off to a really slow start here because the difference between last year and this year, even because they had a lot of these similar offensive issues last year, the difference with last year and even especially the year before in 2023 was that the defense looked rock solid, right? The last 2 seasons at the start. That defense was not rock solid in that first game. They were not at all. And you have 2 high-powered offenses in both Philadelphia and Baltimore. You could argue probably the 2 best running backs in football right now with Saquon and Derrick Henry. Like, amazing wide receiving talent on the opposite side. And then the defensive talent, it's the front 7 with Philly, and it's those corners and safeties with the Ravens, right? Like, that Kansas City O-line, relatively good, but still nothing special, right? Like, it's still not great. Jawan Taylor looks like it was a not good investment for trying to help Patrick Mahomes. Like, I'll say all gas here. I think there is a more than realistic shot that the Chiefs will start the season 1-3, and gotta start to ask a lot of questions if we get to that point.
I mean, I would say it's only asking you 1-3 because if you look at the rest of their schedule, they only have really maybe 2-ish tougher opponents at the end, the Lions and the Bills.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. They'll start 1-3 and they'll finish 10-1.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Just because.
All right. Well, there you go, gentlemen. We've ended it up. So we either think we'll see how this goes the rest of the way through. I think, but I'll take my leave. Let y'all have some fun here.
I think that was a fantastic start to all gas, no breaks. I think that was 4 very good, very strong takes that Rick got us going here. So very fantastic, Podfather. Justin, whether it's you or me, we're going to decide that in the next week or like probably at the end of the weekend. But we're gonna have to come up with our own fire here. We got to bring up some hot takes of our own right next week because there's some pretty good ones and pretty good like realistic ones. I think like Rick, like we always poke fun with him with the takes. But I think those were 4 like realistic, like, oh no, there's something here. Like Rick wasn't bringing up like Patrick Mahomes is going to be traded for Shedeur Sanders type of funny humor. Like, no, he was actually bringing up legitimate real.
That was number 5, actually, but I probably stopped that just a little bit shy.
He was bringing up real things that could happen. So we have a standard now. The standard has been set. Rick has set the bar. He doesn't just set the bar; he is the bar. Barring a line from a TV show back when certain shows were actually good. So I think that was a fantastic one. We will talk the rest of the week one, but honestly, I can't wait. I can't wait, Justin. I need it right now. I need it right now. The people demand it. What was game day like for you on Sunday? Steelers Jets. Tell us the whole experience, like the actual pregame in the arena. You were out with friends and give us the whole picture.
So we showed up early. It was me and the fam, my brother, my dad, my cousin. We showed up. Parking was fun, but we got there and spent a nice rainy day in the parking lot of MetLife Stadium. We got in, we got to our seats. I'm reminded about how cement gray the whole stadium is. It's not super exciting, but you get there and we had a good view of the field, actually pretty good seats. We were in the end zone. I forget which side, but it started off strong. Look, I'm not going to lie. I had some faith that the Jets could put up some points. They took an early lead. They did have some clearly Jet moments. One missing the two-point conversion after a penalty on the kick, which clearly ends up costing them at the very least a tie at the end, giving up poor field position at the end of the first half to let the Steelers come back within 2 to make it, I believe, 19-17 at halftime. Was tough, but overall, it was a very good game. It was exciting. The people in the crowd were into it. They gave out these Jet flags that we all forgot because we were so disappointed when we left. We just wanted to get up and walk out. But the Jets put up a weird amount of points right from the get-go, and it just felt different. Now, of course, it's also extremely disappointing to see the quarterback that you longed to bring you to the promised land after so many years came back and just put up a game that he'd never put up as a Jet, which includes an early victory in the season. So it was tough, especially it being a comeback win because of all the times that they needed a comeback win last season. But overall, it gave me a more hope than I've had over the last entire offseason, if you've seen how I've just refused to talk about the Jets. So there is some semblance of life there. We'll see what they do against the Bills this week, but if the weather is any indication, it's going to be a rainy season.
Fair analysis. I mean, honestly, I think the biggest takeaway for that game was the fact that Garrett Wilson, he got rolling, man. He had some really good catches with Justin Fields. It looked like him and Fields have some really good early chemistry.
I think he deserved the money he got. The only thing I questioned about that contract was Garrett Wilson's decision making because he wanted to be a Jet. But that being said, the kid has proven to be quarterback proof. I mean, over the last 3 seasons, this is his 4th season, right?
Yep.
He's had 1,000 yards every year, hasn't he?
Yeah.
How many quarterbacks have thrown him the ball? 7, 8,
12.
Yeah, I mean, if the kid could have any sort of consistency in real quarterback play, he should be an excellent receiver this year. It's just there wasn't really much else. I mean, Alan Lazard being 3rd on the depth chart, but then being a healthy cut was a head scratcher to me. I get why you cut him, but then why is he 3rd on the depth chart? I mean, was it supposed to be some sort of trick? I don't know. And then what happens when your line doesn't hold up because AVT is not there and there's some issues? And what do you do with the offensive line? I like the tackles. I like that they have 2 young guys, but there's definitely issues. And there were definitely points where Justin Fields was running for his life. Mm-hmm. And as good as he was, they couldn't finish the game. So now what happens when you play a team that's got their pass rush really under control and ready to go? I mean, let's face it, they had a good pass rush against the Ravens. And the hardest part about the Ravens is containing the quarterback. They're going to do the same thing with the Jets. And as much as I like Justin Fields last week, he's not going to be Lamar. So what do they do? How do they respond? Can they put up points early again? or are we going to go back to the Jets not being able to score a touchdown in the first quarter? And still a lot of question marks.
I forget. Did Membu start this game, the first round pick?
Yes, he
Because
did.
ABT was out.
Yes.
How?
Actually, I saw a post. He allowed, I think specifically against TJ Watt, he did not allow TJ Watt to record any sack or even, I think maybe one pressure or zero pressures against Fields throughout the
I
game.
mean, that's not bad for a green rookie getting the start because you're slotted in when your guy that you're supposed to learn from is out for the season. That's pretty good, I think.
Yeah, between him and Fashanu, like that's you got two offensive linemen right there that are the future of that team.
So I do have two questions going forward for the Jets. Obviously, Brees Hall had a great game too. I mean, that's something we've been talking about for a while. What happens behind him? Because Braylon Allen was really stifled, 6 carries, 9 yards in that game. He did have a touchdown, but And then I guess to your point, Justin, who is the team's wide receiver 2? Is it Josh Reynolds? Is it a tight end?
Really, it's Brees Hall. But
yeah.
Last game it was Tyler Johnson. But targets wise, I mean, it was Reynolds, but there really wasn't, besides the 4 to Hall and then 9 targets to Garrett, everyone else was 3 or less. So there's obviously a huge disparity there. I'm not surprised so much by Braylon Allen being stifled. I mean, he had 6 carries for 9 yards, but he's always been their short yardage back. He really did succeed more in outlier situations last year. They knew how to use him in a way where you didn't expect him to be the guy getting the ball. He was great catching the ball out of the backfield, but he was really also good in those 3rd and 3-ish situations where you didn't expect him to be more than a blocker because he is a pretty good blocker. And all of a sudden he had the ball and he was running down the sideline or up the gut. So they're going to have to figure out a way to mix him in properly. The Steelers are, again, in my mind, a stout defense. No matter what you're doing, they're disciplined. They play strong. They know what you're good at, and they do their best to take that away from you. So they weren't going to let a secondary guy like Braylon Allen beat them. But look, I'm not so worried about Braylon Allen's performance in Week 1. He got in the end zone, right?
He did. Yes.
He got a touchdown.
Yep.
So that's really the only stat they needed was points. I'm sure he would take a 6-carry, 6-yard game if he had 6 touchdowns. So, that's what's important.
Yep.
And now they just need to learn how to convert it into a win. I think, again, coaching, a little bit, the inexperience shot him in the foot. I understand going for the kill early on, but it's what cost them, because if they didn't go for 2 in the beginning, they wouldn't have had to go for 2 in the end, and then they would have kicked both extra points, and the game would have been tied for the Steelers, and the Steelers would have had to either go for 2 to win or tie. And it's just, now the Jets they were in a position still to win the game afterward. They had the ball, but sometimes you just got to remember that you got green and white on your pads and not some other color, because if you watch the history of the Jets, they're better off on defense at the end of the game than they are on offense.
It's true. Also, one last thing, too. If you had Ben Skoranek as the first Pittsburgh touchdown in this game and you bet on that, you need help. You were correct, but you seriously need help.
No. In the car, we actually bet that the first touchdown was going to be a defensive touchdown by the Steelers.
But I would believe that more so than I would believe that Ben Skoranek, his one catch
was on the Steelers.
Right, his one catch was a touchdown, and the first one.
Although, I also predicted that the game was going to end 9-3.
Okay.
Well, but that made sense knowing what it is. But also, when you expect those high defensive, low-scoring battles, that's always when they score the most points. I wasn't so surprised.
So remind me again, didn't Rodgers end his Jets tenure throwing his 500th touchdown pass to Devontae Adams last year? Was 500 with that? So 500 is Devontae Adams. 501 is Ben Skoranek.
As it should be.
That was his last touchdown pass?
Yeah.
Did you throw another one after that?
I don't believe so. No, I don't recall. But still.
Justin, I want to. So that's a lot of the short-term stuff we talked about. I want to ask one long-term question before we move on to talking about the rest of Week 1 here. Mm-hmm. Brees Hall, right? He was a second round pick, right?
Yes.
This
That was 507, Rick.
Oh, okay.
So with Brees Hall, he was a second-round pick. Now he's had injury concerns here and there, but he's been like the stalwart, been the lead guy for the Jets rushing attack. I haven't kept up with this, so maybe you know more than me. What is the status on him getting a contract extension maybe here during the course of the season? Do you have a pulse on that? Is there any reporting you could tell us about? And even in just, if not that, you want to give your opinion on what you think the case will be with Brees Hall and a potential contract here?
It's a tough call at the moment because one, did they extend Sauce yet?
I can confirm that in a moment.
So that would probably be the priority there, is one. And then two, they would probably need to look at
They did, by the way.
They did extend Sauce?
Yeah, 4 years, $120.4 million contract.
Right. So, I mean, Brees would probably be the next one on the list. But the issue is, do you sign a running back? I mean, I'm all for it, depending on the price tag. But they're also in a weird flex position because when you're paying all that money to a running back, realistically, you want to be in a position where you think you're going to win a lot of games, including playoff games and things like that. You know what I mean? To give a 4-year, $100 million deal or a 4-year, $75 million deal to a young player that's going to take that many hits is risky, especially when you don't know if you're going to be good in those next 4 years. You don't know if you're going to be good in the next 2 years. So that's why the running back market is so tough, because as important as the position is, you need to be so confident in your position, because if you screw it up, you hurt more than just your running back position. You hurt your cap and you hurt the longevity of being a good team or getting back into that kind of grace. So as much as I'm for it, this team's not really in a position to do what's best for themselves and Brees Hall. Again, I want the dude to be a career Jet, love him to death. He is an excellent player and he is a playmaker on the field and has been a very good player on a just terrible, horrible experience of a team.
No good team.
We want him there. We do. Any Jet fan that says they don't want him there is lying. But they don't. It doesn't seem like they know where they are, which is part of a new regime. Like you got to find out what's good and what's bad in year one and make your move for year 2 and 3. Is Justin Fields the quarterback for the future? Are they going to draft a quarterback next year? Do they have the draft capital to maybe move up if they win a few games? Do they expect to win a few games? Do they not expect to be good? It is very, very early in the season, in the position that they're in, for them to be making any sort of credible decision on this. And it sucks because the trade deadline for the NFL is just too early.
Yeah,
it is. So they're either going to have to make a move or they're going to have to struggle with it next year. But it's not an easy position for them, and I don't necessarily know what the correct answer is. I can guarantee you that anyone on the Jets staff does not know what the correct answer is.
No, yeah, I was just curious what the early indication was, if there was any of that.
There's a lot of rumors that he's going to be traded. I don't really see it. One, because they'll never get the value for him.
Yeah.
But it might make sense if the right offer comes along. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't want to see him go anywhere. I want him to be a Jet for life. I think he's been excellent for them. I want him to continue. It is hard to have a playmaker like that and trade him away. I mean, the Jets didn't really have a running back like that that's had an impact on the field like that since Thomas Jones. I mean, you maybe want to say Chris Ivory had a season. Matt Forte had a season. You know what? LaDainian Tomlinson had a couple good seasons there too. But Brees has really been the best running back they've had in a long time.
I would say you'd say probably best naturally drafted Jets running back that they brought in.
It's the only naturally drafted Jets running back. None of those people I just said were drafted by the Jets.
That's why I specify that part.
They might be the best drafted running back since Don Maynard, Rick? Anyone else that comes to mind that was that good?
Running back wise, no, not that I can think of.
Not that they drafted.
Well, not that I drafted. No. Because I mean, you could argue Curtis Martin and Thomas Jones, but I mean, they didn't pick those.
They didn't draft them. Yeah.
No.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was just very curious because you have an interesting scenario. Like Brees Hall came in like his draft year, it was like very and then, like especially with his birthday, like he's 24 now. He doesn't turn 25 until after this season. So like where a lot of running backs are getting paid in like their 27, 28-year-old season, like you have a guy who's 24 going on 25. Like this, if the picture was clear, I think they would know for sure if they'd want to extend him or not because he's actually relatively younger compared to what some of the backs have been when they've gotten their contracts. But that's the
But
curiosity.
the argument also is he's 24. He's taking a lot of hits. He's missed time for injury. It's a bruising position, and unfortunately, sometimes also when you're good at catching the ball out of the backfield, you just take that much punishment because now you're taking a higher percentage of the plays. It's bad enough you're running up and down the middle with these 300-pound linemen landing on you left and right. Now you got to take hits from the linebackers and cornerbacks on the outside. You got to take the ball, catch it over the middle, and sometimes take a lick, and then you're still in there blocking sometimes. So this dude is taking hits 90% of the time that he's on the field. It's not easy.
That sounds about right.
God,
And he's on the field 80% of the time.
There is just a list of all-time mid running backs that the Jets have drafted. Oh God, we have another segment on the show later on down the line. I want to read you these names, but these are just ridiculous how bad these are. Oh God,
I don't know where they would come in. So if you want to list them before we get to the rest of week one here,
okay. Let's start off with oh God, it's bad, man. Let's start off with obviously you remember Bilal Powell.
of
I'm sure you
course.
remember him. Of course, Bilal be damned. I'm sure then you remember guys like Sean Green.
Yep.
Then you would probably remember Leon Washington, the great kick returner.
Oh my God, absolutely. Sheesh.
Yep, remember him.
I would love adding him onto my teams in Madden just for his returning.
Yeah. Cedric Houston and Derek Ward back-to-back years. Those are great names too. Lamont Jordan in 2001. Remember that name? That's a name. I know. It gets worse. It gets a lot worse from there because then you have in 1997 you have Leon Johnson in 97. He was a rough name. Adrian Morrell, I think, was drafted by them actually in like 92. So I'd say he was the best one that they drafted, or before that, because Blair Thomas. Yeah, okay. Blaze Bryant in 1991, he did nothing at all.
I mean, top tier name.
Top tier name, great name. A.B. Brown, of course. A.B. the RB, I suppose. Roger Vick, who they spent a first-round pick on in 1987, only ran for 1,289 career yards and 10 touchdowns. Solid choice there, guys. Really, really good. Oh, boy. 1986 ninth-round pick out of Hawaii, Nu'u Fa'ola.
Yeah. I'll be shocked if he ever saw the field.
He did, actually. He had 20 carries for 71 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Cup of coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Hawaiian coffee at that. Tony Page was another name. Johnny Hector, 4,200 yards apparently. Dwayne Crutchfield. There it is, 1981. Freeman McNeil. There you go. So from Freeman McNeil to Brees Hall, there's been a lot of mid, in the words of one other Long Islander who mid. Yeah, not great.
Another Long Islander who is part of a fledgling and failing corporation as well.
Womp womp.
Womp womp womp. But there's that. But Rick, while we await Justin, he had to. He's listening somewhere in the distance to that list of names that you just had there. But Podfather, let's get on to it. Let's talk the rest of week one here as we look at what the NFL landscape was. And Rick, I mentioned at the top of this, like the chaos literally started from day one play, like essentially the first play of that Cowboys-Eagles game, right? Like you had you had Dak and Jalen Carter go at it. You had what really was a helter-skelter game in terms of offenses were going in the first half, right? They were exchanging scores. Then the game just essentially goes silent in the second half. Guys are dropping passes left and right. A.J. Brown had I think one catch game. George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb both just dropped multiple what should have been easy balls to catch. Like it was just a really ugly second half. So that was the start. And then the next day, Friday, Brazil, no one snapped an ankle or ligament from our knowledge that we believe. But Xavier Worthy went down with his shoulder, and the Chargers got a big win against the Chiefs. So clearly the Chargers just need all games against the Chiefs to be international, and they'll figure out a way to win the game. But what Rick, with those two games setting the precedent for what Sunday and Monday night were, what did you make of the first two games that started off the season?
The Thursday night game, I think, was actually really uninspiring on both sides of the ball. I mean, Dallas had just traded away Micah Parsons, and so a lot of the questions were going to be how would their defense hold up. And for the most part, the defense was, fine. I mean, when you have guys like Kenneth Murray, who's came up from Tennessee in his debut, 9 tackles for them solo, did okay. Dante Fowler was a real non-factor for them. Their offense was, again, fine. CD had 7 catches for 110, did drop a bunch of passes here and there at the end. Javonte Williams looked like a solid addition as a running back. Miles Sanders is a good foil for him. Dak didn't look that great. And then on the other side of the ball for Philadelphia, like the passing game, like you said, it just kind of seemed meh at best. I mean, Goddard had 7 catches. Jahan Dotson was the leading receiver for the Eagles, but that was really it. I mean, Saquon was held pretty much in check. You had a couple of rushing touchdowns from Hurts, but that's, again, what do you expect from that? And again, even their defense was not as highbrow. They didn't have a single sack in this game, which is interesting when you consider the fact that Dallas's offensive line is basically restructured after, losing Zach Martin because he retired and everything. And so, they still didn't really seem to make anything, work well. It was uninspiring. I mean, the Eagles got the win barely by the skin of their teeth, I would say, but, it didn't really inspire a lot of confidence in me. The Friday night game, I would say, was a bit of a shocker in how emphatic and effective the Chargers were at moving the ball on offense. I mean, we haven't seen Justin Herbert look that good in a game in a very long time. And he looked, not only did he look great, Quentin Johnston actually looked great. He caught all his passes, I think. I think he had, what was it? They targeted him 7 times, and anytime that he had just catch the ball, he actually had 5 catches for 2 touchdowns and actually held on to the ball a bunch of times. Like, good for him. Keenan Allen, I think he prefers being in a Chargers uniform because he had one of his better games. Because last year he was kind of a non-factor in Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think Najee Harris was the big free agent signing, but obviously they didn't really need to use him that much because they have a good back in Omari and Hampton. The Chargers offense just looked really good. And, defense was, again, solid. Nothing too inspiring or special, but solid enough. But yeah, once Xavier Worthy went down, it was like, what does Kansas City have remaining? Because it wasn't at all, great. I mean, like you said, that running attack is just so lackluster. Pacheco had nothing, Kareem Hunt had nothing, and I mean, you're relying on I would say an over the hump Hollywood Brown, even though he's 28. He's not the same guy that he once was. Juju, the same thing. They're not the same guys. So now you got to rely on them more because you don't have Rashee Rice for 6 weeks, I think it was. And Worthy, God knows, I think he separated his shoulder, so who knows what the recovery time is from that. I don't know if he's done for the year, but it seems like he might be done for the year. And again, it was just – that's why I brought up the fact that, this team could literally be 1-3 after 4 weeks because when you look at the Chiefs and you look at what they have, I mean, who is to say that they won't go 0-2? And who is to say that they won't be 1-3 because their schedule is tricky.
Yeah.
And they just don't look like the Chiefs that we know, the Chiefs we expect, especially when you're going into a Super Bowl rematch against a team that absolutely walloped them last year. You would think that they would have a little more spark in them, but I'll be honest with you. For what this game could have been, the Chiefs-Eagles, it's looking pretty boring on paper. Until we get a 45-41 showdown, it's looking pretty boring to me, I'll be honest with you.
I don't blame you. No, yeah, this is one of those things where, like for me, I'm right with you. Like, the Chargers took the lead, and even if it ended up being a close game, like, it felt pretty emphatic. It felt like this was a Jim Harbaugh. This was a Chargers win, grinded out against a top tier team like KC. But also, like you mentioned, like Justin Herbert, always have been conversations with him, right? Like, where does he rank in the league? Because I think we agree the top 4 quarterbacks in the league are set in however order anyone wants to personally make it. It's Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar, Allen. Somewhere in that order. Most people will agree like those are the top 4. Some people will only say it's maybe top 3, and then Burrow is just outside of them. I say you don't understand football if you think he's really that level below, but to each his own. But I think most would agree it's those 4 guys, and it's always in conversation who's the 5th best quarterback. It really just becomes like a what's it called? It becomes like a musical chairs game of 1 week it's Jalen Hurts, and then maybe 1 or 2 weeks it's Jared Goff, and then somebody else. But that, like you said, it was a complete game. Him and Keenan Allen reconnected. Him and Mike Williams could have reconnected as well if Mike Williams decided not to retire, but he did. But he still had Keenan Allen. Like you said, Quentin Johnston showing up. We'll see if it's consistent this time, because Justin did point out that he did the same thing last year, and we need to see a full proper season from him in terms of game after game after game. But if this can be relatively consistent, if Quentin Johnston can now be that 1,000 yard at minimum, like a 1,000 yard, maybe a little over that threat, him next to Ladd McConkey, right, with Keenan Allen as that safety net third guy. That's kind of, I'm not comparing them in talent, but just the idea of it, what the Bengals had at the start of Burrow, Chase, and Higgins. Remember, they had Tyler Boyd as that reliable third option as a vet, right? That's kind of what you have here. You have the star with McConkey of the Chargers room. You can have Quentin Johnston if you can really be that dependable number 2, and then you have the veteran there to back up those guys. It's a good situation if they can. And then Joe Alt, that pick looks better and better, especially with the unfortunate fact that Rashawn Slater is hurt once again. Poor guy. But Joe Alt is continuing to play at a high level, all pro level, Pro Bowl level tackle just in his first year, which I don't think surprised any of us. He's just going to continue to be that great. It was a fantastic, emphatic Chargers win. I think a lot of the focus has, of course, been on the fact that, how did the Chiefs lose the game? And they lost just because they were outplayed. Believe it or not, that can happen during the regular season. Most would argue they were getting outplayed more often than they were losing last year in the regular season. So it's going to be interesting to see, at the very least, like you said, and like I joked during, all gas, no breaks, will it just be a case where the Chiefs might start 1-3 and they'll just rattle off 8-9 wins in a row, right? That could very much be the case. So we'll see there. But yeah, and I agree with you that opening night game was didn't live up to the hype, to say the very least. So we'll see. I mean, because now it that game is making me question how the Eagles will perform against the Chiefs. And then I almost wonder, before we move on to the rest of the week, Rick, do you buy anything into the fact that the Cowboys were able to keep that game close? Or do you think it's rivalry, emotions were high, they were able to get up for that one, and maybe we'll see them, not necessarily both sides will be bad, but maybe this next week the defense will take a step back?
I think there was something to that. I think that a lot of people had written off the Cowboys because of the Parsons trade, and I believe that Prescott and the offense did kind of want to show that they do have some life in them, that they can exactly, perform to their utmost. But I also think that the emotions and the adrenaline of week 1 and of the first game against the Super Bowl champions, against your hated rival, does play a factor into it. So I think the real litmus test is this week coming up, because I believe if they are 0-2 after losing a game to the rudderless New York Giants, on offense at least, then I think you're going to see some real question marks over there. I don't necessarily know if that's going to be the case because of how the Giants performed, but I mean, listen, Prescott didn't throw a touchdown. He didn't, like I said, didn't look great. So maybe this is just the way it's going to be from now on. Maybe they're going to be looking to, I forget what it is. What do we say it was? Get parched, draft arch, or whatever it is. I don't know.
Is that what we said?
I don't
Get
know.
Parched, draft arch.
Yeah, I don't know.
Lordy. Shout out Arch Manning.
Yep.
And his bounce back week 2 after what was a tough week 1.
Well, it's always good to play San Jose State.
I mean, why not?
I once won the college football championship with them in NCAA football in '99 on PC. Yeah. That was back when I really didn't want to be Nebraska or any team that was ranked. I wanted to be San Jose State and just take a bad team. But that was also back when the graphics were god awful. I don't know if you remember those games back in the days.
Oof. Yeah, those graphics were well. Now, like it's one of those things where back then the game was great, the graphics were bad. Now you have the graphics are pretty good, but the game sucks.
Oh, of course, yeah. WWE 2K25, anybody?
Any 2K game over the last little bit.
Facts.
And most of Madden's games, and really NCAA, the rebirth of the college football game last year. Although why did they have to make it a yearly game again? Just release a fucking patch after a year and wait and like the whole concept. Like, there's a reason why shooting games and games like that are held in higher regard than sports games, because those games go for several years and then like they'll get patched or worked on in the meanwhile. Like, I know the answer before anyone says anything in the comments. Yeah, I know, it's for money. We live in a greedy capitalistic society. But, like, come on, there's no reason why we should be paying $60 for a game reskin every single freaking year.
I'm sorry, but I'm kind of over the whole FCS East, FBS, general, that sort of thing. Like, we want to actually see the D2 schools and D3 schools in the game, just for the fun of, they don't have to have a home stadium. They can be road teams all they want. That's fine. But, we do want to see, the Adrian colleges of the world play against, New Mexico State or something like that. Something stupid like that. That's what we want to see. We don't want to see FCS West or the FCS Northeast Pandas or whatever you want to call them. Like just stop it. Just bite the bullet, put all the schools in the game, and let's have some fun.
Yeah, and now
this is what I think.
And now the alleged thing with 2K is not going to have its own standalone college basketball game here for a bit, but they said they were going to add schools in the next NBA 2K game. Bro, I do not care. I want to take the Lemoyne College Dolphins.
Ooh.
And I want to turn them into a powerhouse in the Northeast Conference before moving them into a bigger conference and winning it all.
Ooh.
I want to take. I want to revive the TCU Horned Frogs or even the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Right, lower tiered in their conference now compared to what they were, especially Oklahoma State. I don't think they've won a national championship since black and white television.
That's fair. That's fair.
Stuff like that. That's what I want to do. I don't care if you're going to take the top 100 schools in NCAA college basketball and put them in 2K. No, I don't want that. I don't care. I don't care about Oregon. I don't care about that stuff. I want to take the small conferences. I want to take the teams that need to be revived as a program and tradition. I want to take those teams to the top. I don't care about helping Duke get more banners. I want to beat Duke. I don't want to play as Duke.
I do think it's really interesting that it has created such a divide amongst the generation that now we have the new games where all the people, they just want to be these lower tier schools because all they see jammed down their throats are all the higher conference schools and all of that. And now, a lot of kids want to grow up and they want to be, they want to coach Grand Canyon in the NCAA basketball games, or, they want to revive NCAA baseball and be Dallas Baptist, even though no one knows where Dallas Baptist actually is. It's not actually in Dallas, but it's one of those things. So I agree with you there. I think that's huge. I think that's an important part of what makes this great. So
yep. And speaking of important parts, let's get to the part that we're actually technically supposed to do here. Let's go on to talking the rest of the week one here, and obviously we touched on so many of the games in certain instances between your takes and also with Justin, so I don't think we need to deliberate too much more on the Steelers Jets game.
No.
The way I look at it, Rick, in terms of the 1 o'clock games, we also talked about the culture lack. Rick, Daniel Jones, apparently he Halloween came early because he decided to dress as Peyton Manning / Andrew Luck.
It's amazing that all he needed to do was just go into a dome and become a better player.
And also have an offensive line that doesn't have Evan Neal on it, for one.
Well, an offensive line without Evan Neal is great for any quarterback, let's be honest here. And here you thought, oh, wasn't he getting better? No, he wasn't. He's still Swiss cheese in human form. And we'll talk about him a little later, especially him and a few other people. happened. I think you know where I'm going with that. So we'll talk about that later, though.
Oh yeah. So the Colts just shellacked the Dolphins. We talked Jets, Steelers, Raiders, Patriots. It's kind of eh. Like there wasn't anything crazy. Ashton Genty didn't pop off yet. So
Excuse me. That's your quarterback right there throwing for 362 yards. But 362 yards is nothing to sneeze at.
Well, I mean, to be fair to him, there were a lot of like quarterback performances where it's like a lot of guys passed under like 200 yards.
Sure.
But no, of course, Geno Smith already beginning his claim to a second Ring of Honor selection for him. Outstanding quarterback status right there. Ashton Genty, like I said, not the best opening performance, but the Patriots are most certainly Mike Vrabel keeping the Belichick trope alive of like focus around the guy on the other team. The problem is that when you focus on Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers had his time to shine. He had 5 catches for 100+ yards, but he's now going to be questionable going into the next game because he picked up a little bit of an injury towards the end of the game. But Jacoby Myers, for a guy that don't want to be there, he had a pretty good game.
Who else had a sneakily good game too? Michael Mayer.
Yes.
The other tight end they drafted, a couple of years earlier than Brock Bowers. So.
Dude, I told my friend this. It's like I felt so bad for Michael Mayer. It's like think about it like 2 years ago, or now, yeah, because he's entering his 3rd year. Like a couple of years ago, he's just like, okay, I'm gonna be on the Raiders. I'm gonna be the young tight end. Boom, boom, and then a year later, it's like Brock Bowers come take your job.
Exactly. So.
It's like for me that was like not the exact same scenario because the other guy was older, but it's like when the Bills drafted Kincaid and Dawson Knox was there. I'm just like, how are you gonna make that work? And for having 2 tight ends like them, they honestly haven't made it work.
They make it work. They make it work. And incidentally, with that Raiders Patriots game, Drake May also had a nice game too. 287, touchdown on the pick, 30 for 46 and whatnot.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, man, the Patriots. I think they can put things together. I mean, they have a decent enough running game. They got to get Travion Henderson going. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson wasn't really doing much, but Henderson, for the small packages they used him on, looked pretty good. So maybe keep using him a little bit here or there. You never know.
100%. Yeah, like with Drake May, this is one of those things where just like I think now in today's era, you really can tell who only looks at the box score at the end of a game. Or like throughout a game and just didn't watch a game. Like a lot of people were being sarcastic about Drake May, but like this one of those games, like he's continuing to show the traits he has. He's continuing to show the skill, the athleticism. Drake May is a good quarterback. Like I think that's as simple as that. Drake May is a really good quarterback.
Also, what a Patriots debut for Harold Landry. Right at the side of the ball, 2.5 sacks in his first game as a Patriot.
I think he was Mike Vrabel.
Do you miss Gerard Mayo or Matthew Judon? I think not.
No.
Yeah.
No. Yep. At the very least. Jaguars-Panthers was a weird game.
It was very weird.
They had the delay. Like, all the other games were being finished in the 4th quarter when they just hit halftime. Mm-hmm. Apparently, fun fact, I saw it on Twitter today, actually. Apparently, at some point during the Jags-Panthers game, you know this, Rick, because like in the business, but for the people watching this, teach you a little bit about the industry, about sports media, like scenic shots, right? You see like going into break, or sometimes like going into or coming out of a break, like it'll be a sweeping shot of like whatever is like the notable landmarks near a place. Maybe it could be the inside of the stadium, various things, right? Apparently, like one of Fox's particular shots was what was a notable landmark in Jacksonville. Keyword was, because I saw like a fan retweeted it and was like, "This is how you know Fox doesn't know anything," because like whatever the name of it was, like they were like, "Yeah, that thing hasn't been in Jacksonville since like the pandemic," and I'm like, "Ooh."
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say, was Dilly's place not available for them to take a little photograph of?
You know what it is, man. It's like when it comes to getting scenics, like the process of it might. I mean, I don't know if it would surprise people, but it's like it's one of those things where you really have to like be on top of it, because it can legitimately end up being a thing where it's like you won't have fresh video of the area around the arena or the stadium. I kid you not, for several years. Like when I was working college basketball, dude, it was a struggle to get like recent video. Like I'm talking about, I was having to provide scenics that were like 4 or 5 years old.
Well, I think too. I think a lot of times there are, especially in the college game. Because I remember this going back into my time. I remember ESPN3 was doing a game of one of the colleges I used to work for, and they wanted us to provide like a sizzle reel of like videos and shots of the campus and of all that. So we had to provide it ourselves. So that was a lot of fun. But I'm not sure that's the same thing. But again, too, it's also Jacksonville. I mean, the most exciting thing about Jacksonville is the sign saying "Leaving Jacksonville."
By the way, I got it. I did find the tweet. So someone tweeted, "We have a Jacksonville landing sighting," and then Jaguar Gator 9 said, "If you want an idea of how bad Fox is at their job, the landing has not existed since 2019."
Yee. Yeah, that's not ideal.
Yeah.
That's not what you want.
Not
They
great.
probably would have been better off using photos of like the Florida Georgia college football game for the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, which is in Jacksonville. I think is what they call it. Great name for a college football game, by the way. World's largest outdoor cocktail party. I hope they serve shrimp. In any event, though, uninspiring game on this one. Jacksonville, Carolina. Weird game, like you said.
Yeah.
Not a lot to really speak of. ETN had a great game running the ball.
I was going to say he was the highlight.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, it was kind of just there. And interestingly enough, Jacksonville also traded away their kick returner. Tank Bigsby is gone.
Yep.
So, after 1 week.
And they sent him to the Eagles.
Yeah, great. Good job, guys. Real good job there. 5 carries, 12 yards, 1 kick return for 20, and the Eagles we want that guy. That's what we want. Pick him up. I thought you were going to make a joke, by the way, that during the intermittent break, David Tepper went to God and asked for a stoppage of the weather, and he got hit by lightning because that's the only way this would make sense. But
Look, I mean, David Tepper has been modestly quiet for a bit now.
That's a little scary. I'm a little frightened. I'm a little frightened that he's been this quiet.
Oh, Lordy.
Yeah.
Lordy. Lord.
And again, Bryce Young just shows that he deserved the number 1 pick.
I was gonna say that was a tough one for him. It's like it's having a lot of people now question is like, was the end of last season a bit of a fluke of a run for him? And the answer is maybe. I feel like another hockey reference I'll drop here, but I just think this is apropos. I've had this similar reaction, Rick. Like whenever a backup goalie goes on a run. And then they're going to go into the next season projected to either be the starter for a team or maybe 1A, 1B duties. And when people are like, "Oh, they have so-and-so as the goalie and da-da-da." And I'm just like, no, there's a reason they were backup, right? like when the Stars had the bubble run with Anton Hudobin and they entered that following season with Hudobin, the plan was going to be he was going to start more. I'm like, don't get me wrong, great bubble run. He's been a career backup for a reason. All due respect to him. And we saw that season. Eventually, he was just putting up goals. It didn't work for him being the full-time starter. And then, this is the unfortunate part. I got to that, he had to end his career on long-term IR. So, I was like Anton Forsberg in Ottawa, right? Or, he, again, someone who had a bit of a run during the season, was entering the next season as a full starter in Ottawa, and people were excited about that. And I'm like, once again, he was a backup for a reason. This addiction to falling for hot streaks or assuming every backup, when given the chance to start, will be able to become a long-term starter. It's like, guys, we can figure this out here. It's it was a good run for Bryce Young, but to assume that everything is fixed with Carolina, no. I made the joke that things were going to be fixed just to spite me and Justin for a pick 2 years ago, but I didn't think it was actually going to be fixed. They're still going to be one of the bottom 3-4 teams in the NFC.
So I think we call it the Jordan Bennington effect, by the way. I think that's what we give it the name for. When the goalie that's a backup does pretty well and gets a major contract there. But listen, the only thing you can potentially say is that hopefully we don't have a regression, because watching Bryce Young get sacked 62 times in his rookie season was cause for a lot of concern. And he only was 29 times last year because the offensive line was pretty good. But they don't do well on offense. It's going to be a lot of problems there for them. So I think that's fair.
And speaking of need to step up on the offense, Justin, they may have won in week 1. But the Bengals got to do more than just score 17 points in the future. But that being said, they did finally win in week 1 for the first time in a while. The Bengals won a tight one in week 1, 17-16, when the Browns kicker just absolutely shanked it. missed to say the very least. And there were two pretty close games in that 1 o'clock hour because the Buccaneers Falcons, low scoring game, but it was a tidy back and forth affair. The Falcons looked in control at first, then Tampa Bay was scoring, Baker getting the momentum going, back and forth game, and Tampa ends up second half team they end up getting the final score, the win. Baker Mayfield showing up when it matters the most. Two very tightly contested games, one of them ending with the offense making the difference, right, with Tampa, and then the other one where, I mean, yes, again, Brown's field goal being missed was the difference maker, but also like special team / defense. The Bengals defense did something they could never do essentially for the back half of last season, and actually make important plays when they had to, right? Forcing the Browns in third and long situations, and Trey Hendrickson getting a key. I think he was the one that got the sack before the Browns missed field goal, if memory serves me correct. And if it doesn't, it's been a couple days. Leave me alone. So, Justin, what do you make of those two games here briefly, of one ending on defense and special teams being the difference, and the other one ending with Tampa Bay just doing enough offensively to overcome Atlanta?
Well, it was tough, I think, to watch the Bengals struggle, but you see what the issue is there on defense. I mean, obviously, you hope that the offense can get a little bit better going. It's funny because the Browns are kind of a team that looks like they're designed to beat a team like the Bengals. Their strengths are really what the Bengals' weaknesses are. So it'll be interesting to see how both teams move forward, but I do expect a little bit of a challenge this week, coming in with another team that we expect it to be an easy win for them. That, may have beat a bad team this week, but we'll talk about it later. What I found interesting was the Falcons-Bucks game, partially because it was really, really close in the beginning. I mean, it wasn't a it wasn't like a really. I didn't expect it to be so close all the way through. It is. They're not going to win with Baker leading them in rushing yards at 39 rushing yards a game in game one with 5 carries. But I will say, thank God for their nice rookie receiver, Egbuka, finally coming on towards the end. All of a sudden, 2 touchdowns and 4 catches. 67 receiving yards. I mean, he really turned it on towards the end when they needed it. So it was good for him. But that was a closer game, I think, than they expected. I don't think they expected to just scrape through that way and have them win in the final seconds like that. But
And in both cases, there, Jurg, your least favorite thing, or maybe your most favorite thing, is happening with the teams that lost those games. Both Cleveland and Atlanta, I believe, are auditioning for new kickers.
Yeah, tragic. Although Yoko, he still has his job. I think it was just a bad game for him.
I think they're just bringing in someone for competition.
Yeah, it's always that competition, but things will be fine for him in Atlanta. Not so much in Cleveland. Well, I mean, Jake Moody got cut too, so let's skip to that slate of games, the 4 o'clock hour. Niners Seahawks. Weird NFC. I feel like the NFC West is due for several weird games every single year, and this is just one of those games, 17-13 affair. Titans, Broncos. Broncos defense did their job. They made a rookie quarterback have a pretty tough Sunday. Honestly, I know on paper, this is what I mentioned before, it wasn't great. Cam Ward, he didn't have, on paper, the stats weren't there, but it's not like he looked lost out there. I think a lot of it was just a thing of maybe some timing, getting in with his current receivers, this scheme. Look, we want to talk about coaches. Callahan is still questioning that coaching hire for Tennessee. I don't think Cam Ward, the stats weren't eye-gaudy on paper, but I actually don't. He did not have I wouldn't call it a bad or terrible rookie debut. I think it was the rookie quarterback on the bad team that had the first overall pick going up against what's projected to be one of the top defenses in football. The fact he didn't have 2 or 3 interceptions. He didn't he's not the reason they lost. Getting sacked 6 times didn't help his game, help him at all, but that's offensive line for you. So Broncos, they handled business, which I think for a team like them, where I think the 3 of us, did all 3 of us have them in the playoffs, or did one of us have them missing it? I forget.
I had them missing it, I believe.
So and I think,
yeah,
and I think a lot of like panels are very similar, right? Like there are people that are high on the Broncos, but there are people that are, questioning them. This is the kind of game they need to do. The final score doesn't show it, but they handled business, right? Like they made Cam Ward's life difficult. They got to him plenty of times. That this is what they need to do against teams that on paper they're better than. Like they need to take advantage of those games when they do get them this year, because as we know, when you make the playoffs, your schedule is going to be a bit harder. The NFL schedule makers will give you more, and then if you finish higher up in your division, you face other teams higher up. The whole song and dance. We already know how this works. So for the Broncos to get a nice, easy win like this, big for them. Niners Seahawks game, just and became ugly NFC West football, but not the kind of ugly football that we would see with like AFC or NFC North football, right? Like NFC West has like a distinctive kind of ugly to where there's a moment where you think, okay, the offense is going to get going here, and then it just doesn't. When in reality, in the AFC and the NFC North, it's just bloodbath, sacks, interceptions, and by chance somebody scored. It tends to be how it goes. Brock Purdy had 2 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey coming back into the fold. Just not the greatest day on the ground. I mean, good, relatively good receiving, right? 73 yards for him. Ricky Pearsall, 108 yards through the air. McCaffrey had 69 yards, nice on the ground. So like pretty decent offense there from San Francisco. Seattle, it's almost like they need a Ring of Honor caliber quarterback there. I'm just saying.
You are forgetting something pretty significant that happened. What's the one thing that we've always said about about San Francisco year in and year out?
I thought you were going to ask us what's the thing we say about Seattle, because then I was going to go to the Justin quote of the Max Unger trade.
Well, yes, the Max Unger trade is of course one thing, yes, but what's the one thing that we talk about every time when it comes to San Francisco? What's the one thing they need to avoid constantly? Their guys getting hurt.
Oh yeah,
Kittle's out for 4 weeks, right?
Yeah,
what I'm going to say, though, it's not the worst thing in the world, because I think if anytime you want to have an injury where you're out for a little bit, it's the very beginning of the season, because they can kind of work their way through it. It's not like they're saying Kittle's done for the year; he's just out for a month, basically. You can find your way through it. If Brock Purdy has to miss week 2, though, that's going to be a lot of fun, because who's their backup again? Oh, right, it's Mac Jones.
Hey, the people have been joking on Twitter that Kyle Shanahan has been waiting to finally have Mac Jones under his belt ever since he came into the league.
Hashtag unleash McCorkle.
Unleash McCorkle. Justin, I'm not going to do the typical shtick of, it's Sam Darnold's fault. I'm not going to necessarily blame him. Like, efficient, didn't necessarily air it out to an extent in terms of like what his average yards per completion were. But like Sam Darnold only got sacked once. Not the best game. Like I said, a lot of quarterbacks threw like sub 200-yard games this week. Sam Darnold being one of them. But a porous rushing attack, right, for the Seahawks. Between Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet, they had 67 yards on the ground on 22 carries. And then receiving-wise, nobody aside Jackson Smith and Jigba showed up. He had 9 catches for $124. But Cooper Kupp only had 2 catches for 15 yards. Elijah Arroyo only had a catch. Kenneth Walker had 3 catches for only 4 yards. Like, just nothing going. What do you make of the poor offensive showing for Seattle against San Fran?
Well, I think one, it's a healthier defense than what they've seen in a while for San Francisco, and their goal was to get back on track, and for them that meant making sure that this new high-powered Seahawks defense doesn't do what they do best. And what they do best and what they were always going to do best was run the football. Excuse me. Without that running game, they're not going to be an effective team. And it sucks to be outed week 1, but that was always going to be the case with them. I mean, Kenneth Walker having less than 50 yards, and Charbonnet is a good back, but Charbonnet having 47 yards and 1 touchdown is not what you're expecting to start an NFL season. I do think that they can get back on track. I do expect their receivers to have better games in this. I do expect their running attack to have better games in this, but teams are going to be gunning to do what the 49ers just did. They just laid out the blueprint of how you could slow down this offense, and this is not a great ideal start for a team that I pegged as being a possible playoff hopeful.
Yeah. No, it's as you said, kind of a mini way like showing there of how to beat them, and you got to make sure you step up if you're Seattle. Charbonnet and Walker from last season being a relatively lauded backfield, right? To now that first game showing again, it's the first game, got to give it time, but not the ideal way to start the season at home, especially, right? Like again, this is the weirdness of the NFC West, but like at home is you expect a bit more production than that, and they're gonna have to do better going forward. I was mentioning, Justin, I think you may have missed this part when Rick and I were discussing it, but like, I feel like now on social media, you really start to see who just looks at box scores versus like who actually watches the games. Because for Rams Texans, CJ Stroud was only technically sacked 3 times, but it felt like a lot more. It felt like the dude was under pressure in that game. The Texans tried to revamp the offensive line this past offseason. They got rid of Kenyon Green, which, considering he got cut by the Eagles afterwards, was probably the right call. They traded away Larry Tunsil, who last season, of course, was the most penalized he'd been in a while, not at the same high level that he had been in his previous years in Houston and also when he was on Miami. They tried to fix things up. They tried to fix up the running back room a little bit, bringing people aside Damian Pierce in there. Joe Mixon, of course, the tragedy is the fact that he's going to be out for the first couple weeks of the season. So like that's the tough part. Nick Chubb, decent game, but just not a great game for the Texans in terms of, you only scored 9 points. Can't necessarily call that a great game, even if they had somehow won it. The Rams just did enough. But it was that Rams defense, that the defense that we've all lauded on that Rams team for, I feel, a season and a half going on now, and how phenomenal they were. And that Rams defense really did the work here. And I almost wonder, again, this is week 1, could be different coming up here. I'm sure we expect more offensive production from the Rams, on various games. But for all things considered here, do you think, either one of you could take this topic, like, do you think we could see this maybe a bit more often where the Rams are going to sort of look like a team like this, where it's like they'll settle for these low scoring games because they know they have the kind of defense that can limit a team. They know they can have a defense that can grind it out, and they can, not every opponent, obviously, but they have a defense that could hold a couple teams here to, these sub 14, sub 17 point affairs. And maybe all the Rams need is 20 to 24 points to get it done.
Well, first of all, Byron Young is really good.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't get nearly enough love because of how good Verse and Fisk are, but he has been incredible for them. He's truly a menace to any opposing offensive threat there is. Listen, I think this is the adaptability of the Rams, is that they still have enough high-powered offensive weapons to get the job done. Kyron Williams is still a good running back. Puka Nacua is a top-tier wide receiver. They did add Devontae Adams, so they have a couple good weapons there. But I think now you're turning into the Matthew Stafford truly a game manager role, where he doesn't have to do too much. As long as the defense plays well enough and they don't commit a lot of mistakes, they'll be fine. I mean, his numbers were pedestrian for Stafford, I would say. 21 to 29, 245 and a score, to Davis Allen, which sounds like a law firm rather than a tight end at this point. But, listen, if this is what it's going to take for the Rams to, just win games that they want to grind it out and play slow, boring football that gets them a 11-6 season or 12-5 season, and it's the formula that works, that's what they're going to do. I think they have the tools to do it. I think that defense is solid, and the offense has good weapons. They can put up points if they need to, but they don't necessarily need to put up points every single week to be that team that can outpace and outclass opponents. I do want to see them shore up the O-line a little bit, just because they didn't have a lot of running rushing yards, only 72, I think. And Stafford was sacked a couple times, and I think he was pressured a few more times and hurried a little bit here and there. But, listen, Rams are 1-0, and that's, all you can ask for if you're Sean McVay and Sean McVay's wife and Matthew Stafford and Kelly Stafford, I suppose.
So it seems. We kind of talked about this game a little bit before. Maybe just like final thoughts we want to give on it. Lions, Packers 27-13 victory. game really turned on the defensive penalties the Lions committed on the same play that Branch had the pick six, or what looked like it was going to be a pick six. That really could have changed things, to say the very least. We kind of already mentioned it earlier, right? Which we're having it in part of the all gas, no brakes segment. You know, not a great first look for Detroit, right? In the post coordinators era, because they lost both their OC and their DC. More so the worry about the offense. Like the Packers hanging 27, like the Packers can hang 27 on most good teams. I think Detroit, even in previous years, right? My consistent thing I've been saying about Detroit now for going on, this would be the third year saying it, is that the defense, Aiden Hutchinson kind of a bit of a spanner in the works of what this take has been, but it's more like Detroit's defense is greater as a whole than the sum of its parts, right? Like, yes, you have the definitive guy, Aiden Hutchinson, there now, but around him, it's a lot of good players. It's not the elite of the elite. Like, he doesn't have a Fred Warner in the linebacking core behind him. He doesn't have a number one corner behind him, right? And almost like what I've been saying about San Fran for years, like Detroit almost doesn't really have like that bona fide, like lockdown cornerback, right? Good safety in Branch, but no like number one prime Darrelle Revis like you two had on the Jets, like back in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Like, doesn't have that. But that's how I've always felt about Detroit's defense. And like they have carved up a little bit, 27 points done by Green Bay. Jordan Love, again, sub 200 yards passing, but efficient through the air, 2 tutties. Josh Jacobs had a good game. Again, like nothing crazy. He's had better games on paper, but just like ground and pound, and he just went, and then finally they break through for the score. No one had a breakout game on Green Bay, but they didn't need a breakout game in this one, right? Like this, they played a kind of, I don't know if rhythmic is the right word to describe it, but they played a rhythmic offense. They did what they had to do. Feels like a lot of the games like in this 4 o'clock hour, or like nearly all the games in the 4 o'clock hour were like this. Just they did what they had to do. They didn't have to do anything like too crazy to get the win. So we'll see. We'll see how Green Bay goes going forward, gentlemen. And then Detroit. They both had blue. Tennessee only scored 1 less point than Detroit on Sunday. Detroit, we'll see if they can bounce back here in week 2 in the coming weeks. And defense, I think, will be fine. I think the question right now, poor offensive performance, that offense has something to prove here in these next couple of games. Ladies and gentlemen, death, taxes, and John Harbaugh and the Ravens find a way to lose a game yet again. I got to say, I respect the craft. I have never seen a man try to lose a game in so many different ways that I've seen John Harbaugh. I've never seen a quarterback be a part of so many weird losses than Lamar Jackson. I have never seen a running back look like he was literally the reason the game was going to be over, then give the game away like Derrick Henry did. Suffice it to say, like Justin was saying it before, right? Like the Ravens are their own biggest enemy. John Harbaugh and the Baltimore Ravens, it's like, who's their biggest enemy? Who hates them the most? Look in the mirror. It's yourself. I heard a take earlier, boys, and then this will be what I say throwing it to you. Again, I know it's week 1. I know it's early. But someone has said it's like, when people speak about the Ravens, right? Justin, you mentioned this before, how talented they are. It's like people have been saying, like, this is, you could argue from top to bottom, has been consistently one of the most talented teams in the NFL the last 3 to 5 years. And they haven't even made a Super Bowl. They have not been rewarded with an appearance, and they have not won a Super Bowl yet. And games like that are going to be the reason why they don't win a Super Bowl. just not good, man. So I'll leave it to you two to take it from here. But just collapse. Just a collapse by the Ravens in that one.
What else can you say?
It wasn't Mark Andrews' fault. Yay. Good for him.
I just okay. You go up 40-25. Fine. Touchdown, 40-32-ish, something like that. Fine. Okay. Fumble is what it is. You still have a chance to put the game away. And I know we talk about it all the time, but let's talk about that play sequence on that last Baltimore drive before they punted the ball away. Buffalo had all 3 timeouts. I get it. Your first play is a Derrick Henry run, which gets about a yard, maybe 2, I think, 1 yard. Okay. Then you call timeout. Fine. Whatever. Second play, we're running the gadget play to Zay Flowers at this point, and it gets nothing because, first of all, Matt Milano, great to see him back on the field. But, okay, so 3rd and 9, and then you do the pass play for Lamar to DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know. Personally, to me, it's a risk. I keep the ball in Lamar's hands a little bit more, you know? I try and let the guy who's won an MVP, you know, be
2
the guy,
MVPs.
2 of them, be the guy who, you know, stops the bleeding. It's so funny to me that, like, I guess we can critique this all we want because we do. But when the Ravens need to run the ball more, they don't. And when they need just one more pass play to kind of open things up a little more, they run the ball too much.
Or they do a gadget play.
Yeah. And then how in the world is Josh Palmer able to make that big of a play on the final drive?
He's always been an underrated receiver, man. I've always liked him. He's a very underrated receiver.
But I hate to say it, it kind of looks like the Baltimore defense was like Buffalo's defense when Kansas City needed a field goal to go to overtime in that AFC title game. It's almost like a mirror in a sense. And how John Harbaugh still keeps his job. 17 times he's blown a lead or something like that.
Yeah, so, like I don't understand. You cannot justify, and you said, Rick, that we harp on this. It's not just because, like, it's because they do it for us. The last 3 or 4 significant games, I know this is a regular season game, but just bear with me, people. The last 3 or 4 significant games, every single time John Harbaugh makes the decision to no longer let Lamar be the one to decide this game. You just mentioned on that last drive, Lamar, the one time they let him actually make a play on that last drive, he got 6 of the 10 yards they needed. The problem is that they didn't give him any more downs. Again, in the playoff game against Buffalo, yes, he had the mistakes early, but he was bouncing back from that. He was continuing throwing the football, yes, okay, whatever, but just going away from it. The playoff, to me, the biggest sin will always be the Kansas City AFC title game from 2 years ago, to where Lamar Jackson was – this was before Derrick Henry, by the way. This was the year before they got Derrick Henry. Lamar Jackson was slicing and dicing, and he was being efficient on the ground, which was helping through the air. No design run plays in the second half. What are we doing? What are we doing? Why does John Harbaugh genuinely make the decision to not allow the best player on his team to make the plays? Because if this boils down, this is one of 2 things. And you guys tell me. Either he is, whether it's him or the offense coordinator, whoever the heck you want to pin this on, are so incompetent calling plays and making these key decisions that they need to literally hire a coach on the staff just to coach the fourth quarter, or they genuinely don't think Lamar can do this. And I refuse to believe Lamar Jackson can't figure this out. I refuse to believe that.
It's weird, man. It really is. I don't necessarily know if it's a lack of belief in Lamar to do it as much as it is just a lack of, I guess, awareness or a lack of belief in the weapons around Lamar to do it. Maybe the possibility is that, if we take the ball out of Lamar's hands in the final quarter when he has to make a play, we lose the risk of him injuring himself because we don't actually have a backup quarterback anymore. Because, our Pro Bowl backup quarterback was cut from Cleveland. But that's why you can't bubble wrap a 2-time MVP like that. You can't cut him off at the legs. It's just, I don't know. But it's been a problem, and it bit them because Buffalo, in contrast, allowed Josh Allen to do Josh Allen things.
Yep.
And let's just say that Mr. Steinfeld was quite happy going home that night. I will just put it that way. Jorg not happy, but Mr. Steinfeld very happy.
like, honestly, look what happens when you actually let your MVP make plays. Look what it can do.
I thought you were going to say, look what happens when you get engaged to a legitimate star of Hollywood instead of Taylor Swift.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
that as well.
yeah.
That as well.
Yeah.
I mean, wait, is Taylor Swift technically like a Hollywood star?
She was in Cats.
Is the bar that low?
Yep, bar is that low. Yep.
Because if the bar is that low, I'm taking
Shailene Woodley.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm taking Shailene Woodley over Taylor Swift in terms of like acting chops. Come on now.
This is a pro Shailene Woodley podcast now.
It's
Woohoo!
not even close.
Oh my god. I'm
It's
so
not
happy.
even close.
I'm so happy for us now. We've matured. Speaking of matured, can we talk about JJ McCarthy a little bit?
Yeah, Justin. I again, we made the joke earlier that like Justin reading our text from the night before, it's like it gave him the impression it's like, oh wow, the Bears had a really great opening game. No, they had a good opening half. And I'm being very nice when I say good.
I thought he died. He didn't dance for Sunday, so I thought he died. But it's up here or there.
Yeah, sure. We were very concerned about Justin for the last like 36 hours. He was not responding to any of our messages.
Yeah.
This is the start of the show was first contact actually.
Indeed.
But JJ McCarthy struggled in the first half, right? He was just missing, getting hit a little bit. It felt like things were like really poorly developing with the concepts. The pick six, right? That moment, that is the kind of moment that makes or breaks you for that game. Either they were going to spiral or they were going to come back. Now, ironically, they also did the comeback with Randy Moss joining the Manning cast, by the way. But the fact that took it in stride, fourth quarter comeback for the kid, what a performance, completely dicing up Minnesota's defense with his legs too, not just his arm. Like JJ McCarthy had a heck of a second half, one heck of a fourth quarter. Essentially all the points in the second half, I believe, were from the fourth quarter. So just fantastic stuff from the Vikings. Second half comeback, to say the very least. They start the season 1-0. And Kevin O'Connell, he's somehow going to win a third Coach of the Year award, which is going to be insane because they just love the guy. And Ben Johnson starts 0-1. Justin, the sweetness of victory, the agony of defeat. What did that game tell you about O'Connell and McCarthy and what O'Connell can do for him and what McCarthy has? And then on the flip side, what did that game tell you about Caleb Williams and what happened when it looked like the game was starting to get away from him?
So, part of the reason you guys didn't hear from me again is because I was asleep. It was a rough 36 hours. So, I did not watch a single minute of that game. But from what I saw in terms of the box scores, in terms of the play-by-play, in terms of what looked like happened during that game, and there's a few key things here. One, it looks like Caleb Williams is already more comfortable this year than at any point he was last year. And I know it's still a disappointing loss and that they didn't really get anything going too bad, but you got to remember Brian Flores is an excellent defensive coordinator, and that defense really picked it up last year. I expect them to be good this year, even though we thought that maybe they lost some players that take a step back. We'll see what happens when they play a different team with a maybe more exciting offense than we expected the Bears to have right out of the gate. But it's a good start in terms of comfortability and performance from Caleb Williams in that new Ben Johnson offense. Two, we saw what the Vikings saw in a kid that people weren't sure could play in the NFL. And that is a winning mentality and real leadership. It took him a second to get going, but that is why they believed so heavily in him and why they were not so worried about letting go of a guy like Sam Darnold after the season he had. And three, we saw that even if it took 4 quarters, they're still going to get back to what made them successful last year, and that is the hands of Justin Jefferson and the legs of Aaron Jones. And that's exactly what got them that win in the fourth quarter. A touchdown by Justin Jefferson, a great touchdown catch by Aaron Jones, and then a surprising but effective quarterback sneak call for the third touchdown to really solidify this comeback. And they are still a well-coached team. they're still going to be a fighting, scrappy team, even if it's a tough performance. They have to learn to not play down to some of the not as good teams in the NFL. I don't want to say worse because I think the Bears are kind of on their way up, but they should not play down to the competition. And I'll give them some slack because it is also a divisional game, which is always a little bit tougher. But I'm excited to see what this kid can do next week.
I like it. Rick, what did you make of your former team, the Bears? And the popular meme being that once the first 15, 20, however many it was, scripted plays were done, Caleb Williams didn't look great out there. He was able to help them get a score late in that game in the fourth quarter, although it could have been a lot better had he hit DJ Moore on that route that Moore got wide open and Caleb Williams just he overthrew it, right? I know he didn't underthrow. He overthrew it, like just completely out of bounds, like sailed that one.
Well, I mean, he kind of showed you why USC quarterbacks don't normally go number one in the NFL draft. I'll put it that way. I think he still showed some experience. I think Ben Johnson's offense, while good, does give him a little bit of pause here and there. But I think it was a better performance for him than anything he could have conjured up in an Eberflus offense. I will say this, though. We're skirting over something very important here. It was 17-6 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And then Minnesota scores 3 straight touchdowns, which is the hallmark of what happens in the Dennis Allen defense.
Yeah.
Because the only thing worse than Dennis Allen as a mid-head coach is Dennis Allen as a mid-defensive coordinator.
Yep.
And it's just the agenda.
Well, that's even worse because like Dennis Allen, the reason he's become a head coach multiple times is because he's actually had good defensive coordinator seasons. So when you get mid defensive coordinator Dennis Allen, you're screwed.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, and that's unfortunately where the Bears are. I think is screwed. The offense looked fine. I mean, again, Caleb Williams made some rookie mistakes that rookies do make. There was a couple times on those later drives where he held onto the ball a little too long, couldn't find his receivers. Got sacked once or twice. It happens. I mean, the Bears' offensive game, the running game was basically shut down. It was either Caleb or nobody because DeAndre Swift had a couple good runs here and there, but nothing too special. They didn't really utilize their tight ends as much as we liked them. I mean, Cole Kmet didn't have any more than one catch. Colston Loveland only had 2 catches. So you have guys here you want to try and impress and try and utilize in your offense, you really don't. I think it's just the growing pains. But the problem is that for the Bears, this was a game that they had and they should have won because, it doesn't get any easier for them from here. And again, it's just you rue missed opportunities. You rue chances, especially at home, especially in front of your home fans. You rue missed opportunities to put games away and to put the stamp out on a rookie quarterback that they could have done against McCarthy that just didn't pan out. And so, that's kind of why the Bears are 0-1 and the Vikings are 1-0 because Chicago left the door to the cave open and the Vikings stormed like it was Valhalla.
And early season divisional game that you drop, especially with the Lions looking weak, like could have gone up on them now going into this week. In the standings, now you draw even, and I think we saw rookie head coach growing pains out of Ben Johnson because like the big thing, everything aside in that fourth quarter, they got the late touchdown, they were able to get it just before the 2-minute warning.
Yeah.
The key thing, they were unable to get the kickoff after that through into the end zone, where it was non-returnable to where they would have had the 2-minute warning available to them. And that was the number one thing that was criticized on Twitter more than anything else because Peyton was hollering about it in the Manning cast. Like he hollered about that thing. And like that was one of those things where you could have had, stuff run 2-minute warning, stuff another run, you got a timeout, maybe you get in the 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. And if you lose it, but at least you could have had more time, right? Whereas like they got the ball back with what was it, 16 seconds left, as opposed to the 2-minute warning plus your timeout. Like maybe you would have gotten with like 1:20 left, Like Caleb Williams, even whether he would have gotten it or not is irrelevant. He would have had a minute plus more. So rookie coaching staff, I know some of those coordinators are experienced, and obviously Ben Johnson is previously in NFL jobs, but just as a whole, like as a unit, right? Like no awareness or no ability in the situation to like that was still a winnable game by Chicago. And it's a dangerous early precedent, the fact that they are losing, not just losing a winnable game, but losing it in such a way where it's just like, it's a simple thing, right? It's nothing like you could have given yourself an extra minute plus to work with, could have given you more time. Maybe they could have drawn something up there at the end. Like the offense actually looked like it was humming on that what was the real last drive for them, right? So missed opportunity, like you said, when missed opportunities in week 1 and week 2 can bite you badly. Look at the Bengals last season, right? That Patriots game cost them, man, straight up. So we'll see what the Bears' future is like. I'm just realizing now we never talk Commanders and Giants. I just completely skipped over that game.
You don't need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. It's right there. Giants country. Start the kid.
Start the kid. Or hear me out. Famous Jameis.
Yeah, I mean, you could start him too, but I think if you talk about all these things about like, oh, we have this package of plays for Jackson Dart to come in and use them, and you never use them, then what was the point of saying you had the package of plays?
Yeah.
Well, and this is where I thought too that for our all guest embrace, this is where I thought Justin would have told me no because he thought Brian Dable would be the first one to be fired this season instead of Mikey Daniel.
I was going to say, Justin, real quick to you. I don't know if I'm assuming, I'm going to assume you saw this earlier today. If not, then I'm going to be the one telling you for the first time. Apparently, Daboll has gone to Giants ownership and has requested Giants ownership, leadership, whatever the heck the word in the tweet was, and he has requested that Jackson Dart be the starter.
I didn't see that. It does feel early for that kind of reaction, but who knows? I mean, again, why? It sounds like this is becoming more of a jet circus than what we're used to seeing the Giants about. Like I said, they would have never gone right to famous Jameis. The second Russell wasn't working out, that would have been the same thing the Browns did. Moved right to the rookie quarterback because at that point your season's kind of lost. What's the point of going to another veteran quarterback that may or may not be your best option? Because let's face it, he didn't beat out the other guy in training camp. So why not just go and see what you have in the rookie? Now, again, I think it's a little early. I think that Commanders defense. Oh my God, I sit here and don't cough, and then the second I start talking, I start coughing again. But yeah, that Commanders defense could get after the quarterback, and we know the Giants offensive line has had some struggles. Maybe the reason he wants to go to some fresher meat is to get some younger legs, because maybe he doesn't think Russ has what it takes to avoid the rush anymore. It's possible, but realistically, the issue seems to be in pass pro, not in the quarterback play itself as of yet. I know Malik Neighbors was supposedly frustrated during the game. Again, I didn't watch a lot of it because I was at MetLife Stadium. So I've only seen what I've seen in highlights and stats.
Malik Neighbors has no right to be frustrated when he's dropping balls that are right in his hands. I mean, I will say this. Russell Wilson is throwing jump balls up there for Neighbors to catch because he knows what Malik Neighbors does best. Catch the balls and go up and catch the jump balls. If you're a talented wide receiver, you catch those balls. You fight through it, you make the catches, you come down with the ball and bounce. Like, there's no reason for you to be frustrated other because that literally, and this was the touch point that I was worried about. And I said this to my wife when they drafted him. I said, he's Odell 2.0. And in every way. He's a great pass catcher. He will get you 1,000 yards, but he's a prima donna. He is. And that's not what this is. I do agree with Justin, though. When you don't have Andrew Thomas, and that, it's not because he was hurt, because he's not recovered fully from the Liz Frank from last year, and apparently they removed a screw from his foot. So he's not recovered from that. Fine. You don't have him. Your offensive line is weak beyond that because you don't want to start Evan Neal, because why would you? And also, you don't want to start guys that Russell Wilson can't see past because he's 5'11" or whatever it is, and he can't see over a large offensive guard. So why couldn't they have just left it at Jameis and Jackson and kept Tommy DeVito? Why did they have to get Russell Wilson? What was the point? This was the talk they should have had last year. They wanted to get Russell Wilson last year. We were all mocking them for it, but it would have made sense last year, not this year. This year, it's just like Justin said, it's weird that this team is the circus in New York. The Jets seem like they're okay.
Well, that's not.
I agree, but 1 week in, it seems like the Jets have their own things, but they're like, you can fix them. Whereas the Giants, they created their own mess.
Well, look, even before they drafted Jackson Dart, we said, what was the point of signing Russ? And then they signed Russ, and it was like, okay, so they have 2 quarterbacks. They're just going to really push Tommy DeVito back, and they'll worry about a quarterback in a year or two. And then they traded up to get Jackson Dart, which, again, was just a complete head scratcher. And then I guess, all right, and then we made excuses. Maybe we'll stack the books. We'll stack the deck against everyone. We'll make sure that we find our quarterback. And that's fine, but if you found him, you owe a lot of money to a lot of different people. So you should have at least made incentive-laden contracts, which maybe wouldn't have attracted these guys. That's fine. I get that. But now you're in a position where you're going to pay a whole bunch of money to a whole bunch of players, and you don't know which one's the answer.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Tough times in New York for the Giants. Funny enough, well, tougher for them, to say the very least. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out in Week 2. And speaking of Week 2, let's move on to talking a little bit about Week 2 and making picks, ladies and gentlemen, because yes, it is time for the hashtag SAOC Pick Challenge, where on a weekly basis, Rick, Justin, and I go on the journey of looking through the upcoming slate of NFL football games for the upcoming week, and we decide to pick games on a point scale of 4 to 1 on how confident we are on picking these games to give us some wins or to be let down by losses in some way, shape, or form. Screw you, Miami. We picked this game in a snake format draft order, Serpentine, from our 4 to 1. Like I said, 4 being the most confident, 1 being the least confident. We all make our 4 picks. We all must pick at least 1 upset pick in our 4 selections. The lowest an upset pick can be used on is the 2-pointer, so it must be used within our first 3 selections. You can pick a tie if you feel so frisky enough. No game was anywhere near a tie in this first week. But if you do want to pick a game as a tie and be interesting with it, it must be used for the first game. But in accordance to that, your 4-point pick becomes a 5-point pick. And of course, if we go perfect in a week with all 4 of our picks hitting, we get a +1 at the end. No 10x +1, just a 10 +1. Although it could be 10x +1 with the x being 1, because then you multiply in 10 and mathematics. I know some people on this podcast don't like math.
Okay, Euclid.
So with that being said, I think I've said everything we need to say. We're about to go through another full slate of games here. Podfather, show us the standings and how depressed we all should be based off of the standings post week 1.
Well, I mean, we have to, get through the coughing and the wheezing over there to let you know that the lines for these games are being brought to us, as they are every week, by our good friends at
ESPN Bet.
Thank you. And now for the sad truth of the matter here. I mean, look, we all comparatively had a good week, I would say, last week. Some better than others. I'm in last place again because Chicago and Kansas City let me down. So I come out this first week with 6 points. Justin and Jurg came out with 7 points because I believe you both lost your 3-point games. Jurg, you had Miami very foolishly. And Justin, you had Seattle, not so foolishly, but it was close enough.
Was that his upset pick?
That was the upset pick of 3 points, yeah. And then our 4th picker, our non-mascot, our group of a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, one's a dog and one's a baby. I'll let you know which one's which. Only missed on the Jets because they wanted to see their father's former team win their week 1 opener, and it didn't happen. But that group has 8 points. So, yeah. Again, we're if you want to put a point on, we're behind the mascot, I suppose. So we got 16 weeks to make up for it. I had originally made my first pick pretty easily, and now I'm kind of not too sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is in. It's not a difficult week, I would say, it's just a weird week. There's a lot of weird matchups here that could kind of go either way. For argument's sake, so there's a game that I was gonna pick, but the spread's very high, and it's a Hail the Conquering Hero returning to a place where he once played. Now, of course, it's probably going to be an easy win, so I'm going to give it to Justin, obviously, because, I'm not going to pick it, so he's going to take it because we all know what's going to happen here. So I'm going to try and get a little cutesy with my first pick, my 4-point pick here. And in doing so, I'm taking a bit of a risk here because I'm taking a bit of a risk here. I'm going with a team that I picked against last week that did not give me a win. And that would be at 4. I'm going to take the Chargers on Monday night over Las Vegas. Let's see if this holds out. Let's see if this holds true. I mean, who knows? It might be a case where the Chargers are a one-trick pony, a flash in the pan, but I tend to believe this offense. And again, if Brock Bowers is a little bit banged up, Chargers offense look pretty good. They still have a bunch of weapons they could use. I could see them going 2-0. So I'll take the Chargers here at 4-point pick.
Be interesting to see if they can continue the stretch of Ashton Genty not having a hot start to his career, to say the least. I was actually just about to ask after your pick before you said it there, but I'm guessing if me and Justin are tied, we're just keeping it to the order of last week. Is that how we're going about it?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
All right, then it's up to me. And there are a decent amount of games here that are worth taking a look at, but let's see. I guess I will take that team. I'm assuming you were talking about the Baltimore Ravens there.
Yeah.
I don't expect them to blow a fourth quarter lead against the Browns. Although that being said, they did do this exact same thing last year where they blew a fourth quarter lead week 1. Everyone was real disappointed after that Chiefs loss. They said they could do it, and then the Colts came into town and said, "Oh boy, Ravens' first home game against the Colts. They are going to blow them out," and they lost to the Colts. So I'm still going to stick with them, but I'm weary about it. It's not as crazy as you're saying, Rick.
Yeah.
But that being said, I do expect them to not mess around.
I will say too. I mean, as bad as Burrow looked in that game, Flacco looked okay. The ageless wonder, Joseph Hugh Flacco, he looked pretty good.
He looked okay, but he only had 1 touchdown. They only scored 16 points. So.
Joseph Robinette Biden Flacco,
Just keep extending it.
Yeah.
Once again, Joe Flacco, product of Delaware, went to the University of Delaware, and of course attended Audubon High School in Audubon, New Jersey, where I took the SAT for the first time, by the way.
There you go.
I've given that lore before. I'm fairly certain on the pod.
Audubon also a society for birds, so it makes sense because we were a blue hen.
There we go. Easy 4-point pick for me. We praised this defense earlier. They're very much going to have a repeat performance here. Give me the Rams over the Titans in this one. I was very scared I was going to lose that chance at a 4-point pick, but once you let the Ravens slide to Justin, it gave me that opportunity.
I thought about the Rams too, but something about that game being in Tennessee to me just throws me for a loop a little bit. I do agree they will chase Cam Ward to hell and high water, but
it's not like you have to pick the spread.
Yeah, that's true. Well, if we were allowed to, we all know who would be the 3-time defending champion.
I was gonna say if so, ladies and gentlemen, like the lines are so we can pick our straight up winner and loser. If we were actually going on covering the spread or not, Justin would be the Verstappen, Vettel, Schumacher of this podcast. He would be going for a 4th championship in a row right now.
Yeah, he would be the Magnus Carlsen, the world chess champion of spread betting at this point.
If my grandmother had balls, she'd be my grandfather. Either way.
Okay, copying the Max Verstappen quote there. Nice.
Well, chaos after dark. Here we go.
I like it. For my 3-point pick, here's the thing. I feel like we mentioned it earlier. I feel like there's a good amount of games here that I kind of like with upset potential to where I'm cool with letting my upset be like quote unquote settling with a 2-point pick. because there's a few games here that I'm earmarking as upset based. It's a tough one. I still need to see a little bit more from the Bengals before I'm confident with taking them with one of my first two picks. At the same time, the Jags didn't really face that tough of competition. It's tough, but I'm going to go with a team, the enemy of my enemy. I'm going to go with a team here that they should win this game, get off to a 2-0 start in the division. They'll just run from there. They've struggled against this team before. I'm fairly certain they'll be fine though in this one. Give me the Bills with my 3-point pick.
And thus he has fallen into the great trap that Justin dictates.
I feel like
picking against or for or just the game involving the Jets.
I had a good record. I had a good record in Jets related games last year. I think I went above 500. I mean, I only picked like 3 or 4 times, so I think I have went either 2-1 or 3-1. Like I feel like I have a good record in Jets involved games. That being said, Justin Fields is going to throw 17 touchdowns in this one.
Yeah,
I hope so.
That's fair.
Why don't we take? All right, we'll stick with the hot hands here and the right quote unquote pick. I do well picking chalk. We'll pick the Bengals here.
That's fair. That's fair. This is one of those winnable game, like should win games for them.
Yes,
both winnable and should win. So. All right, the Podfather will have back-to-back picks, ladies and gentlemen. Which one will be used on an upset, or will he pick an upset for both?
I got 4 games that I have tabbed as upsets. Problem is that I really like 2 favorites in this spot right here. And I want to use them both, and I can't because I have a favorite that I picked up the 4 seed. So I have to pick an upset there. So my question is, do I take the team that won their game but was unconvincing in doing so, but goes into week 2 with a very favorable matchup against a very bad team? Or do I pick the team that won their game a week ago convincingly on offense and comes home to face a team that has a pretty decent defense?
I'm glad I know enough to be able to dictate which 2 games he's he's very conflicted on.
See, if I pick one, I don't necessarily. The problem is that if I pick one, I know that the other game might come back around to me, but I think the other one I don't know if it will. So I'll probably pick the one that I can go with the shorthand on, even though I'm not convinced on it. But they are a team that I did pick for the playoffs. All right, let's do it. I'm taking Arizona at 3 over Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, I firmly believe that Kyler's going to get the offense rolling again. And again, look, I have no faith in Bryce Young, as you shouldn't either. So there you go. Now it gets really interesting. I want to avoid the Thursday night game because I do have an upset there, and I don't necessarily know if I agree with that. I don't believe that Houston's going to be 2-0-2 to start the season, so I feel like that's off the table because I had Tampa in my personal picks. But I feel like that's off the table now. So my choices are a team that I sneakily thought could make the playoffs, an opponent has to win, versus a team that I didn't think could make the playoffs, which is also against the opponent that, be honest here, that the opponent has to win. You know what? Let's do it. Let's see what happens, and let's see if we can't right the wrongs here. Give me Big Blue at 2 points. Giants over the Cowboys. I don't like it, but I feel like the Giants' defense can take some positive steps forward. They did play pretty well. I think they were just on the field too long. They played pretty well when they were in short spurts. And I think the Giants' offense can take a different step forward. And I think Dallas' defense, while good, isn't as great as they were. Yeah, I'll take the Giants here if I have to pick it too.
Rick, it was on my list. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
An interesting one. I didn't it wasn't going to be either of my picks that game, but I don't blame the logic.
See, this is where it gets hard because there's a lot of underdogs here that I feel that can come out and win a game, and especially, I mean, Chiefs as a home underdog, that's a rarity, especially after losing the first game.
Yep.
Now, I don't necessarily think that the Eagles are going to come out and lay an egg. They usually are a team known for their hot starts, but I'm tempted by that one. I'm not going to lie. I do have to pick an upset. And I think I'm going to steer away from it.
Okay.
I think I'm going to make the same mistake as I did last week. Pick Seattle over the Steelers.
Oof. That's one that I was hoping would come back around to me because I did have Pittsburgh on my personals, but I don't hate it. I don't hate the choice.
Okay, so that would have to be my 1 point pick, actually.
Yeah, you got to go upset here too.
No. I'm just now very indecisive about what my 1 point pick is now because the game I was saving has made it back to me for my 1 pointer. But now I'm looking at another game like, okay, because again, I believe in the philosophy the 1 point picks help build to a championship.
Yeah, well, you know.
So that's my philosophy. But for my 2 point upset, I'm a similar mindset of you guys. Like, there's so many games here, it's a flip a coin effect, right? Like, just it could go either way. Patriots, Dolphins, like with how they performed last week, the Patriots should come into Miami and beat them. But the Patriots are always notorious for underperforming in Miami, and maybe this is the game where Tyreek Hill actually looks like he knows how to play football again.
Is Christian Gonzalez out again?
I think so.
Tyreek Hill's not cuffed and in jail?
I don't think so.
Okay.
There's like Justin said, he just mentioned the Chiefs Eagles game, like the Chiefs as a home underdog, like it feels like that should be something we would all want, but because it's against Philly is why we're staying away from it.
I was curious if I was going to entrap Jurg into betting on the other home underdog.
And you have Falcons and Vikings. Wait, who's the other home underdog?
Your boy Danny Dimes.
Yeah.
I ain't touching that. Look, if he shows up like Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck 2 times in a row, Danny dollar signs will be reborn. It's funny because Rick ran from this game earlier, and I was earmarking this as a potential upset because this is a rematch from a coming out party game that both of these teams had for their quarterbacks 2 years ago, when a rookie C.J. Stroud and a first year in Tampa Bay Baker Mayfield both made the world realize A, rookie Stroud was pretty good, and B, Baker had something in Tampa for himself. So I'm going to go with my 2 point upset Tampa Bay. I think this is their get-back game for that game from a couple of years ago. And I also think the Texans, if this was any other division, I'd be concerned, but the Texans could start 0-2 in the AFC South, and they'll be just fine at the end. So I'm not too worried about that. And plus, I think Tampa's defense is underrated, and I think that Texans' offensive line still has a lot of kinks to work out. So there's that. Especially that Tampa Bay front four it can be nasty. So there's that. And then I was briefly tempted here to go maybe the Lions game with the one or that Chiefs-Eagles game. But let me go with a team here. They need to build back trust in all of us if we're going to consider picking them higher up again here. But the fact that they're coming around for me at my 1 point pick, I'll stick with my gut. I'll go with the 49ers for my 1 point pick over the Saints for that one. So, yeah, those are my picks for the week.
That made it easy because if you didn't take the 49ers, if you did take the Lions, I was going to take the 49ers. But since you didn't, I'll take the Lions on the first point pick.
Yeah,
That's my
I
Wolves.
feel those two games are going to be for us no matter what.
Pretty much.
Washington. I think they're going to start 0-2, guys. I'm having Philadelphia by 1 point over the Chiefs. I'm taking.
Wow.
Stick with your conviction. I don't blame you.
I'm sticking that way. All right. So that leads me to wait for the picks from the rest of the group, and I'm getting them right now. So I think we're going to be in good shape here. Okay. And okay. Alrighty. So, yep. The Okay. All right. The anonymous pickers. The so the first three of these picks actually have a relation to something. Um, the 4-point pick made by the 2-year-old in the house because she can't say the color. She says the color without the R in it. She calls them Green Bay. So it'll be she's going to take Green Bay over Washington in the Thursday night game. The 3-point game. The dog actually picked a 3-point game, believe it or not, and she picked it in a battle of horses, but she stuck with the one that would cause my wife to yell a little more if he does well again. So she's going to upset with Indianapolis over Denver. She believes the hype of the Danny Dimes train. The 2-point game is because the babysitter is a Minnesota Vikings fan, so Vikings over the Falcons. And the 1-point game is because no one likes Florida, so she went Patriots over the Dolphins. So that's the tandem of the anonymous pickers, the 2 and 5-year-old. Green Bay, Indianapolis, Minnesota, New England. Only one taking the 3-point upset this week, by the way. Jurg has the Rams at 4, Buffalo at 3, a Tampa Bay upset at 2, and San Francisco at 1. Justin goes Baltimore, Cincy, Seattle at 2, upset, and Detroit at 1. And I go Chargers, Arizona, Giants at 2 at the upset, and Philadelphia at 1. I'm not expecting to make any headways for myself this week, guys. Half expecting that there will be a perfect week from somebody, and they'll have like 19 points at the end of this week. So,
if we're going against so many entities in the collaborative fourth guest choice, then I feel like it's only fair at the end of the season you add up our 3 scores against that team effort, and I think we'll come out on top at the end of the season. So.
You're just trying to get Justin a participation trophy, and I respect that, but
Oh, it's not going to be an official trophy. It's just like I refuse for us to be losing overall in some way, shape, or form at the end. So there's that.
I mean,
so that was this week's hashtag SAOC pick challenge, ladies and gentlemen. Fantastic, of course, as always. We will see where these picks lead us into either complete elation or complete depression by this time next week. Podfather, you started us off strong. You're going to finish this for us real fast. Rick. Come on, graphics people. Rant and Rick's Roaster and Podium. Rick, rant us all the way home for the night.
As will be the running case for the entire season, just because I think it bears repeating. Honorable mention this week is the Dallas Cowboys, just because, it's fair. I'm going in a bit of a different way with my rant podium this week. Instead of it being me ranting about facts of life, because I'm going to say a few things, I'm going to give you my top 3 most disappointing colleges that have had NFL players come through of all time, because one of them has changed. Thanks to a certain Justin, not Zucker, but sort of Zucker, Ohio State is now safe. Justin Fields has proven mettle, and so is Garrett Wilson, so Ohio State is safe. Now, taking their place at number 3 is Wisconsin.
Ooh.
The school of Russell Wilson, Scott Tolzien, Frank Kaminsky, and to a lesser extent, Ron Dane. So, I mean, that just tells you all you need to know. I get it. I get J.J. Watt. I understand that. And fine. one star doesn't make a Starry Night portrait, but like, yeah, Russell Wilson. I don't know who's a bigger con artist right now, Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. Clearly, it's Russell Wilson because Aaron Rodgers has found some fountain of youth in Western Pennsylvania. Maybe it's the Perante brothers hoagies he's having out there. I don't know what it is, but that's fine. My number 2 school that I dread drafting from in the first round, and Justin will hate me for this, is again Southern California, because if Elijah Veritaka can't stay on the field, what's the point? It's simple. It's true. But also, Caleb Williams couldn't get the job done. Reggie Bush couldn't stay on the field that long. And I think there's like Dwayne Jarrett or somebody out there who couldn't even do anything. Maybe Ray Malaluga, whatever it is. My number 1 school that you should never draft from in the first round of the NFL draft is, of course, Alabama, because look at all the lack of success they've had, whether it's Bryce Young, J.C. Latham, Evan Neal, D. Milner, everybody, Arian Smith, or whatever his name was, Ardarius Stewart, I think his name was, him. The only real good one was Mark Ingram, but even that was like short lived. But even then, just like
Amari Cooper.
Amari Cooper. Yeah, he retired. I drafted you in fantasy football, Amari Cooper. You retire about 2 days later. Go kick rocks. Honestly, awful. Never draft from any of those schools ever. It's just simple. And again, Dallas Cowboys, always a joke. Adam Rank, always a joke, because that's how the show goes.
Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for another late night edition. It really became a Chaos After Dark truly towards the end here of the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast. Week 1 done in the books. The first step to this many, many miles long journey has been completed in this NFL season, and we can't wait to continue to go on this path as the season continues. Will narratives be upheld? Will teams bounce back from their Week 1 defeats? Will Mike McDaniel be fired and Rick finally get a coaching firing prediction proper? We will see that and more. Will the Ravens hold on to a fourth quarter lead? We have no idea. And will the Lions be able to bounce back? Oh, I cannot tell. But most importantly, are the 3 of us smarter than a dog? Than a random amalgamation of a dog, a child, a babysitter, the pod wife? And at this point, I'm convinced the former puppets are going to come back on certain weeks for this. It's us against the world on this podcast. To say the very least.
Shh! Don't tempt them. You say the name 3 times, they will come back and force.
So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this nice weeknight edition. We will see you guys next week when we review Week 2, bring back the second edition of All Gas, No Breaks, and just continue to break down football here on this long trek of the 2025 campaign. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's edition of Fun Football and Chaos. We'll see you all next time. Goodbye, beautiful people.